So welcome everyone. We will get ourselves in order for tonight's meeting. Thank you so much for joining us virtually in these pandemic times to give us better insight into, of course, some of the submissions that have been made this evening.
We're live.
Thank you, Palak. Once again, thank you to everyone who's joined us this evening. We are here as council to consider quite a number of community budget requests. And of course, we're thrilled to do so. So thank you so much to everyone who is joining. I'm going to ask council colleagues to approve the agenda. Before I do that, however, I just wanted to give our presenters some guidance that I know you've received from the clerk's office. And that, of course, is we're asking you to confine your presentation to 5 minutes. And the reasons for that, I think, are pretty evident. We have quite a few to get through this evening, and we can't follow up with you by email. So I've asked the clerk's office to support me in my chair role by cueing you at the 4-minute mark to the fact that you have 1 minute remaining. And then there will be a very short round of questions. The order has been predetermined, as I see it here, by the clerk's office. So we're just going to follow the order of the agenda. And after your presentation, you're welcome to stay on. It is a public meeting, of course, or you can bid us farewell. So it's at your pleasure. So with that, I'll say Happy New Year to everyone, and I will call the meeting to order. And I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda, and that is that the revised special council agenda dated January 19th, 2021 be approved as presented. And we were in a seconder, Deputy Mayor and Councillor O'Sullivan. Thank you very much. And now we'll move on to disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest for tonight's meeting? I'm not seeing any. Of course, disclosure of interest is about obviously recognizing, declaring any perceived or real financial benefit or loss from any discussion on the agenda this evening. Of course, that pertains just to my council colleagues. Seeing none, I will then move on to our presentations. So we'll start with the Beth Donovan Hospice. I believe we have Ms. Sue Walker with us. Do we have Sue?
I'm right here.
Hi, Sue.
Hi.
And again, Sue, you're a guinea pig, our trial case for a 5-minute presentation, and the role the clerk's office will play in supporting me as chair. So we'll leave it over to you. And when you see Heather intervening or waving, just do your best, obviously, to wrap it up within 1 minute. And I don't know, everyone submitted a written request that also supports the rationale this evening, so we also have obviously the information to that end. So I'll ask Sue to start her presentation. Before I do, clerk's office, can we put Sue as a presenter on the screen? Can we change the format so that her image appears in presenter fashion, or is that not possible?
So Pollock is actually going to share, there's a PowerPoint presentation.
Great, okay.
Pollock will put that up on the screen, and
Great.
then I believe that when Ms. Walker begins to speak, her tile should move up.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thanks, Sue, welcome. We're happy to have you here this evening.
Oh, thank you so much, Your Worship and members of council, for allowing me to present on behalf of the Beth Donovan Hospice. I'll just give it a second for them to load the presentation.
For sure, yes. You can wait until it's up, no problem.
Thanks.
Here we go.
So yes, we are the Beth Donovan Hospice. Next slide, please. And our vision is embracing life. That's what we try to do for all of our community members here in North Grenville. We have been serving the community for 29 years, celebrating our 30th anniversary next year. Next slide, please. Oh, you can't see actually the list of programs there, but we do provide medical equipment lending, bereavement support. We have in-home volunteer visiting, the spiritual care, and I'm here actually this evening to highlight the bereavement support that the council so generously supported last year, and we hope will continue again for this year. Next slide, please. So specifically our bereavement services, We do provide professional oversight with a counselor on site. We were able to increase that counselor from 3 days a week to 5 days a week. And part of that funding, of course, came from the council. With the pandemic, we have moved from in-person counseling. We are doing in-person counseling, not at the moment with the state of emergency. So we've moved to over the phone and online as well. And we expanded our counseling for children and youth this last year as a result of the additional funding as well. And also our support groups for spousal loss by suicide, caregiver support, and bereavement groups. Next slide, please. These are just some quotes from folks that took part in the services last year. A caregiver who was part of the support group, a grandmother whose granddaughter lost her mother, and also one of our clients who had experienced the loss of their spouse. Next slide, please. So just some statistics for you. 54 clients in the caregiver support group, individual counseling 65. We did children's counseling of 8 clients, and that's under the age of 12. That does not include youth. Spousal loss with 15, counseling for families, 9 couples. And we currently have 4 clients waiting for services each month for the past 6 months. We've seen a dramatic increase in the last 9 months. Next slide, please. So our community benefits and involvement that directly relate to the work plan for the municipality. Of course, one of those pillars is mental health. We know it's a determinant of overall health, and we are contributing to that mental health with our counseling. Coping with the loss during COVID of a loved one, we've seen a huge increase in people not being able to be by the bedside of their loved one, and also not being able to attend funerals due to limited numbers or postponing funerals. And just, it hasn't been the same, but we have seen a huge increase with people feeling tremendous amount of guilt around that. Of course, our one-on-one counseling, equal access to services. All of our services are free. So it doesn't matter whether someone can afford to pay or not, they have access to these services. Also, the benefits of assisting those in need in our community and our volunteers who utilize their skills to help these clients. Next slide, please. So we currently have 6 of those volunteers that are specially trained in bereavement support. By the end of this year, we need to have 12 to 15 of those to support the groups that we have. Those who are on the waiting list attend these groups so that they actually have some support while they're waiting for one-on-one counseling, so they're not left alone, and volunteers are touching base with them and making sure they're okay and directing them to the counselor if there's an emergency while they're waiting on that waiting list. So in last year, we had 4,535 community hours of service from our volunteers. 852 of those were direct bereavement support for community members. Next slide, please.
Sorry, it's Heather. 1 minute, please.
Okay. How do we measure our success? We've had a 400% increase in the usage of this program in the last 10 years. And we moved from 1 day a week with our counselor to 5. We do constant client surveys after 3 months in the program. After 1 year, it's typically 6 months to a year, they're receiving counseling. And we also have focus groups with our volunteers who are in that program, providing feedback to us what they think we need to improve or what they've heard from the clients. So next slide, please. That concludes my presentation. And now I would open it up to anyone that has any questions for me.
Thank you so much, Sue. Right on point. You did exceptionally well. Congratulations. You've set a tone.
5 minutes is not a long time.
Yes, you did wonderfully. Thank you. And appreciate the PowerPoint. Council colleagues, we're going to see if we can confine our questions to just 2. So choose wisely. Council, anyone have questions for Ms. Walker this evening? Canvassing? No? Good. Okay. Sue, thank you. It was really great to see the difference that this funding, I think that was first time funding in 2020 made even during the pandemic. I think sometimes we wonder, how do you pivot? I know sometimes, clearly virtual is a good alternative, but we're happy to see that it worked for you in this case. Did you experience clients with broadband issues, or were most of those virtual services being provided by phone?
No, I would say probably 70% are provided virtually. And we did have a few issues with folks in the very rural, remote areas. We did receive funding, actually a grant to provide tablets to some of our clients. So we were able to spread those around and share them. So those that didn't have computers, we could actually do that. So we were fortunate there.
That's wonderful. And who provided that funding? Actually,
it was Canada Helps Seniors, and they said with the clients, they said we don't care whether they're over 55 or not. You can just utilize these. It was supposed to be a 6-week trial, but then they actually let us keep them. So now we're able to just circulate them in the community.
Wow! Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just go to council one more time. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Since nobody's asking, I thought I'd just a quick one. Sue, can you kind of give us an idea how COVID is affecting your organization financially is what I'm really looking at more than anything. You know, we are funding you based on what we funded you last year. So I'm just wondering how this has impacted your organization when it comes to fundraising and whatnot.
Well, of course, we've had to cancel our traditional fundraisers. We were able to convert a few of them to virtual. Our Hike for Hospice, which is a big one, was virtual. So that actually worked fairly well. And we moved some of our components. We did an online auction as well. That worked fairly well. But we are down in our fundraising, there's no doubt. There have been some grants available through community organizations and some of our associations that we've been able to take advantage of. And we've been able to provide support to some of our clients that were in our day hospice program that can't come in person anymore. So we've been able to pivot and provide them with hot meal deliveries, and volunteers in the summer did porch visits. So we were able to set those things up. But it does affect us because we're only funded at about 58% from the LIN. So the rest comes from donations and fundraising.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for that, Deputy Mayor. I was on mute. A helpful question. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone raise any more hands. Sue, thank you again. Thank you for all the work on behalf of your clientele and for advancing well-being, especially during a perilous and unprecedented year. We appreciate all of the efforts of board and staff. So please pass on our thanks and our appreciation. And thank you again for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. All right, we'll move on to number 2, and I believe we have Mr. Darren Johnson and Mr. Herb Cloutier here speaking on behalf of the BIA. And we'll just load up the presentation.
Okay.
Darren and Herb, we've got you?
Yes.
Yep, perfect.
Oh, you've got my forehead too, great.
We just see the Busker Fest presentation, I think.
Okay.
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 Carry on, and you'll get the 1 minute remaining from Heather in 4 minutes. So go, go, go.
Okay. My name is Darren Johnson. I'm here on behalf of the organizing committee and volunteers for the Kemptville Busker Fest. Just to let you know, the Busker Fest itself is actually a committee of the Old Town Kemptville BIA. It's not a nonprofit unto itself. We are a committee of the BIA. The reason why the Kemptville Busker Fest sort of came about was after speaking with many local residents, stakeholders, and community builders over the past couple of years. The subject of a signature event for the downtown was a regular topic of conversation. And for those who remember it, the Dandelion Festival occupied that space previously up until a few years ago. It was enjoyed by thousands and thousands of people. So this idea came about that why don't we do something similar that would be very meaningful and enjoyable for the community and that could potentially benefit the business community at the same time. Despite the demise of the Dandelion Festival, it was very successful in many ways beyond the politics and challenges that it ran up against. But the vast majority of the community loved it, and so did many of the visitors who were drawn here because of it. Okay, next slide, please. All right. It seems like because of this would be potentially a spring festival, it seems like it would be the perfect kickoff for the tourism season for North Grenville. And I know the municipality's been doing some work to create a tourism strategy, and I'm sure the Grenville Busker Fest is right up at the top of the tourism strategy. As we were building our plan for Busker Fest, we looked at, we figured we could attract 5,000 people to the community for the one-day event. And we believe it would really help to put Kempville on the map as a tourism destination beyond what it is already. One of the major positives about the festival is that we could host it exclusively in the downtown without investing a lot of money in a venue. I know Kempville Live has a contract to host their event on the Kempville campus. But we have a beautiful downtown, and as we saw through the promenade event that we had, the downtown can be a perfect venue for an event like that. So we felt that having it in downtown Kempville would be a great fit.
Aaron, I think you're about halfway through your time, so I'd
Yep.
speed up a little bit. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks. Not too many slides to go through.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep. One of the things that really appealed to us about Busker Fest, or the idea, was the fact that we have an incredible wealth of talent in our local area, in the community. So we wanted to use the Busker Fest as a showcase for a lot of that talent, and also to showcase our unique businesses, and of course the natural recreation assets that we have here in North Grenville, and specifically Kempville.
4 minutes.
Busker Fest also gives the community a signature event to look forward to, and especially due to the pandemic, and after a long winter, we could all use something to look forward to. Next slide, please. Some of the specific features we're talking about in terms of the content, we're going to be bringing in professional buskers, but we're also going to have spotlight shows. We're going to feature local artists and artisans. We'll have lots of family-friendly activities. We'll really work at promoting the local businesses that are part of the festival. We're going to have partnerships with local food vendors and local restaurants. And of course, we have an abundance of live local musicians who we definitely want to be a part of it. Next slide, please. And of course, the programming, I won't bother to go through it because I don't think I have all the time left. But there are many, many facets to this festival that we've already conceived and are just itching to bring forward and show off. One of the highlights is the end of the event. We hope to have a ticketed and licensed concert with a well-known Canadian musical act to sort of really bring things to a crescendo at the end of the event. Next slide, please.
And that's 5 minutes.
Okay. And I'm good if you have any questions.
Do you have, Darren, you can make some concluding comments on this slide very quickly.
Okay. I'll just read it. Kicking off the spring tourism season for North Grenville, the Kempville Busker Fest would further reinforce downtown Kempville as a regionally recognized events venue, and Kempville itself as a hub for memorable day tripping style tourism activities. KBF would also provide a spectacular showcase for not only our impressive local talent, but also our diverse and unique small business community.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem. There's just a little financial.
Yeah, that's actually, if we could just keep that slide up, because I think that's helpful for us to know. I'll go to council colleagues right away. Council colleagues, any questions in regards to the Busker Fest? I've got Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Darren, just a couple of questions. I don't know how far you guys are on your planning, whatnot. And as we all know, COVID is not getting better right now, it's getting worse. I'm not sure, you mentioned spring dates. I suspect you guys are probably thinking that you're concerned about not being able to gather like we did last year. We had trouble with that. So have you secured any dates or consideration around that? And do you guys have a backup plan, or what's the thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, obviously the pandemic has thrown a wrench. I don't think it's reasonable to expect that we could pull this off by May 15th currently. We have done a lot of work initially, but one good thing about the work we've done up to this point is really we haven't made any specific commitments in terms of timing. So we said May 15th is what we wanted to do, but there are no formal commitments, no contracts or anything like that. So the festival is very agile, very mobile. We could move it, say, to the fall, if that's a consideration, or we could even slide it into the late summer just before everyone goes back to school. Like, I think the festival itself is mobile. It would have been nice to have done it in the spring, like I said, to sort of kick off a tourism season, but maybe for the first year we have it later, and then we bring it back to the spring the following year. I think no matter when we place this festival, I think it without a doubt will be welcomed by the community.
Thank you, Darren.
Okay, I see Councillor Strakian has a question, and I'm going to cue my council colleagues. I don't see everyone on the screen when the presentation is up. I think we've taken in some of the financial information, so perhaps the presentation can now be taken down so I can see everyone. Thank you, and I'll go to Councillor Strakian. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to ask something similar to the deputy mayor's question, but I think, Darren, I think this is a great opportunity to have a festival like this. Certainly when their timing is right, I think it would be something that we can avail ourselves to. This springtime is great. However, I think that, any time of the year is a great time for a busker festival. Certainly
Absolutely.
Different cities have at different times of year. Ottawa, I know I grew up with one in Halifax that was at a different time of year as well. So, perhaps this year being what it is and wanting to have fun, maybe a fall one is right for the making, or maybe instead of delaying it until next year. So just to think that through perhaps as another option, because we could all use some extra fun this year as soon as we can. So I don't have another question, but thank you very much for the presentation.
Oh, thank you. And yes, absolutely. Just to follow up, Kristen, even moving to the fall, it sort of presents a whole other set of options for us. Like, there's more programming in the fall that we could implement as part of the event. So yeah, absolutely. We're open to moving it for sure. And depending on when we move it to, we have options for sure.
Great, thank you. Just canvassing one more time. I know that Mr. Cloutier was part of your presentation. Would you like to invite him to add anything? Or is he going to do his own? Hi, Mr. Cloutier.
Yeah, I think Herb's sort of here for moral support. Yes,
Okay,
he's got
awesome.
his own presentation, but I will say that Herb has been absolutely vital to us getting to this point. So very grateful for the support from Herb.
Thank you. I don't see any other council colleague wanting to get. Oh, Councillor Sullivan. Really quickly, go ahead, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you. Just a very quick comment question. Darren, thank you very much for this, as well as Herb. I think it's a great idea to bring people into town and as Councillor Strakian said, have some fun. My question is regarding the buskers, the professional buskers and their kind of tour. How would it fit in with their schedules if we have a date in May or a date in September? I don't know. I guess it's a little up in the air right now for all of these kinds of things, but that's just my comment.
No, it's true. And especially for, let's say, the ticketed concert we wanted to do at the end of the event. Quite often those artists need to be booked well in advance, and there's not a whole lot of booking going on because there's no events to go to right now. So once we get to the point where once we've got a date and we want to sort of go all in on the commitment, we actually have access to, I believe it's the Orbital Entertainment Agency, I believe that's what they're called, that the municipality, the Parks, Rec and Culture Department works with. They've brought buskers to the municipality for family-friendly activities. So we would work with that organization because that's who we've got some organizational familiarity with. We would definitely work with them to sort of ensure that we get some great performers, and not necessarily, I want to make this clear, the primary showcase for this event is the local talent, right? So with that in mind, we give all our local talent the stage, we showcase them, but the professional performers that we would bring in from the outside, we wouldn't bring in that many. Like, I just want to make that clear. Like, this is a community event. So the buskers that we would bring in from outside, they would not dominate the event.
Okay. I'm going to leave it there, Darren, if it's okay, just because we do have a long list and I think we've gotten a lot of information, and we certainly appreciate, as you know, the significant efforts of the BIA, again, during pandemic times and beyond. And it's great to see you envisioning beyond the pandemic that we're also desperate to put behind us. So appreciate this presentation very much. And thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, you take care. So we're going to go straight to Mr. Herb Cloutier with Jam Productions. Welcome, Mr. Cloutier. And I think your presentation is being uploaded as we speak. Just give us a sec, and then you can start. Your presentation.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to say, thank you very much to Mayor Peckford, Council, management, and the municipal staff. My presentation is very simple and very short. I won't take up much of your time. Basically, what I'm proposing is to bring back the use of the Grenville waterfront like it was when I was a kid. We used to go on and skate. The main objective of this is to provide a small skating area this year and provide to the community a safe, naturalized surface with municipal supervision, and give us an opportunity to reclaim our lost natural waterfront. So thank you for that first slide. Basically, we have the traditional things you're going to do with the ice. You're going to have skating. You're going to have activities on the ice that involve families and have no cost activities and exercise and mental breaks to families that will be able to go and just enjoy a half an hour worth of skating and playing outdoors. So that's number one. Next slide. The other thing we're looking at doing is providing that. Can you click the next slide as well, just to bring that up? Yeah. We want to be able to make sure that we work in partnership with the municipal staff to provide safe monitoring of the ice, develop training, and develop some exercise with volunteers. We understand how the ice works, how we monitor it, how we measure it, take pictures, and track it. And I've been doing that every day for about 2 weeks now on my own, just kind of watching it. Next slide, please. There's lots of things you can do with a cleared ice path, but one of the things is that since we've been cooped up, this year's a great example of trying to encourage people to safely go outside, social distance, and enjoy an area on the ice that they could do many things with. Not only skating, but develop some health and wellness in their own families, and take advantage of something that's safe and supervised by the municipality and staff. Next slide, please. And the other thing too is, if you don't skate, well, it doesn't matter. We can provide a little bit of activities that doesn't involve skating. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because it gets away from the main point, which is to clear a small patch of ice. So next slide, please. And again, I don't want to spend a lot of time with this, but I think that it's time for us to reclaim a little bit of the waterfront in a winter area, and really bring some excitement to the community in following years. I mean, this is a terrible year for everybody, but I think there's a great opportunity. I've wanted to do it for a long time, and with your help, I think we can start to build that, process. Next slide, please. So some of the things that we can work together with partnerships for volunteers and, of course, the municipal staff under supervision from that is establishing a safe ice program for 2021. It's important this year simply to move us into future years without having to go back and revisit this certification and the safety. We can monitor the ice, we can monitor the thickness, and we need to start that, kind of this year if we can. And the other thing too is, even though we may be for us, for the partners and the volunteers and the people that we have involved with this to really move forward, really want to have that in place. Next slide, please.
1 minute remaining.
Okay. And this is just from the Department of Natural Resources that I stole from them, showing the importance of monitoring the ice, and not just in one location, but in several locations. If you have my proposal in front of you that I sent you, and the budget that I sent on December 8th, you'll see that the importance is not to clear the ice and then just start skating on it right away. It's important to monitor and measure and certify that the ice is safe, not only for people to skate on, but for plows to plow. And that's all I've got. I'm ready for questions or budget questions or anything you got for me. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll just say it's a wonderful proposal, as they all are. But I think bringing life back to the creek, which is one of Kemptville's main arteries and provides so much pleasure in other seasons, and being able to bring life back to the creek in the winter, I think would be really wonderful and special. So you've got my comments there, and I see Councillor O'Sullivan. I'm not sure I see everyone, so I see Councillor Barkley. And anybody else wanting to get in there? And Deputy Mayors? Okay, we'll see if we can keep it to 3. So we'll go, actually, it may make sense for everybody to ask their question, and then Herb may be able to answer more than one question with the same words. So why don't we try to get all 3 questions at once, if you don't mind, Herb, is that okay? Okay, fine. So we'll start with, I'm so sorry, it was Councillor O'Sullivan, Councillor Barkley, and Deputy Mayor, and we'll just have all the questions on the table at once. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Herb. I think this is a really great idea. I learned how to skate on the creek in Metcalfe because I lived right beside it. And I think it's a great idea if it's monitored and it's safe, and awesome. I just wonder, what do you need down there, like in terms of any infrastructure? You can drill the holes in the ice, but do you need anything for pumping water or flooding or anything like that in terms of infrastructure kind of stuff? That's my question. Thank you. Great presentation.
Okay, we'll go to the next question. Councillor Barkley.
Yeah, thanks, Herb. And I think we all have stories about how we learned to skate on natural ice. One of the things that you brought up in your presentation that I hadn't heard before was the opportunity for training. We've sort of lost that institutional memory about clearing ice on the rink. I've seen some people clearing space on the river, and hopefully they know what they're doing. But can you expand a little bit about creating a bunch of volunteers who know what they're doing and know how to test for ice? Because I think it's, safety is a big concern as far as this project goes. So maybe you could address that.
Okay, and we'll take the question from Deputy Mayor.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Herb. That's great. I would love to see this come to fruition, but a little bit more about it. I saw your presentation from December 8th, and I think the rest of council did too. Councillor O'Sullivan's infrastructure question, I think a lot of that was answered on that, because you mentioned pumps and stuff that need to be purchased, plows and equipment and whatnot. My question is around the volunteers versus the municipal staff. How do you envision that to work? I didn't really see it clearly laid out what your thoughts were. I'm assuming municipal staff, because of liability and whatnot, will probably take precedent. and maybe take their marching orders, or the volunteers take marching orders from dedicated staff. But I just want to know what your thoughts were on what you envisioned. Like.
Okay, thank you for the questions. I'll address Doreen's question first. Thank you, Doreen. I know you guys are super pumped about this project, and I feel the support. Thank you. As far as the infrastructure, there's a conversation that has to still happen between you know, if this is approved for this year or going forward with staff. But basically, how the premises it would work would be the municipality staff would be in a supervisor would be the main provider. They would do the cleaning and the sweeping or the parking lot, you know, to give people areas to park. Where the volunteers come into place is that we can set up, you know, benches for people to change their skates. We can make sure that there's you know, we can rent augers and pumps from local rental agencies that support the community, and we can make sure the ice is smooth and, you know, crack free. And we would walk it every night and make sure that no one's going to twist something. You know, we go through and we'd make sure that anything that needed to be filled and straightened out would be done. That's kind of the walkthrough of the volunteers. The other thing too, as far as the infrastructure, we don't really need anything for infrastructure there. We already have a good set of lights for the boat launch that we can utilize, and I checked that they work fine, and they give a good area of casting light to skate even into the nighttime. So that infrastructure, I don't think there would be a lot, Doreen, as far as infrastructure costs or associated with that. As far as the training, I hope that answers your question. As far as the training from John Barkley's question, the training was something that when I researched this, because when I was young, we just cleaned the ice and we skated on it. We didn't know how thick it was. If we could stand on it, we skated on it. But now, you know, I'm 6'6" now, and I'm, you know, touching on 250 pounds. If I fall, I want to make sure that ice is safe, right? So the plan was, when I researched this online and I checked everything, and even Jim was nice enough to send me some links. It's really important that we monitor the ice flow, the water flow under the ice. So where it might be 4 inches here, it could be 8 inches there or 15 inches somewhere else. So what I wanted to do this year was to with municipal staff is John, to develop the training that we know a repeatable area of the waterway, and where the water flows and how much we can expect to have ice every year in that same perimeter. So the training is both for me and for the volunteers, as well as would be for the municipal staff, because it's a lost art. And I've even contacted the NCC, and all of their training is done in-house because it's a lost art. There's no Ontario certification for it. So it has to be something that you train and learn as you go. And I hope that answers your question, John. The last one for Jim is the volunteers versus municipal staff. I might be repeating myself, Jim, but the municipal staff would take the lead on everything to do with the ice clearing and checking and watching and determining the safety of the ice. The municipal staff would be in charge of the snow plowing, and then sweeping the ice, make sure they maintain the parking lots so people that want to come and park and bring their families. The volunteers would work as directed by municipal staff in any area that we could help. We're not looking to, you know, take any kind of responsibility. The lead has to be the municipal staff, and that's the way I think it should be. But we're prepared to help with benches. We're prepared to help with cleaning and shoveling in other areas of a small trail, you know, or whatever we're going to have for families and kids. We're certainly willing to help with extra flooding at night. We're certainly willing to walk it every night and make sure that we have no holes, no lumps, no stones, no cracks, so that people can safely use the ice without fear of twisting an ankle. We're certainly willing to have representatives there throughout busy times to counsel people on helmet use and safe distancing, and making sure they understand the safety on a waterway like that for skating. I hope that answers everyone's questions.
I believe it does. Just conscious of time, Herb. I must confess I have skated on the creek on a couple of occasions and had a great and we've had a great experience. So I really hope that we can find a way to work together, and appreciate all the information and the hard work you've done to envision a path forward. So appreciate the presentation this evening. Thank you very much. Council colleagues, if you're good, I'll move on. Is that all right? Good. Thank you, Herb, again. Nice to see you. So we'll go on to Wendy Embleton with the Grenville District Community Association. Welcome, Wendy, and I think your presentation is being uploaded imminently.
We're for Canada Day right now, right? Yes.
We are Canada Day, indeed.
So invite Samantha into this conversation as well.
Okay, welcome, Samantha. Sorry, I only saw Wendy's name, but of course you're both heartily welcomed. Thank you.
All right, so this presentation that we've got is just showing that in 2019 we put on the Canada Day at Riverside Park, and in 2020 we did the virtual virtual Canada Day, and we put in some interesting clips about that in our budget that came out from 2020. That went really fast.
Do you need this presentation to
Nope.
slow down, or are we good?
No, as long as you know what you're seeing, that's fine.
Okay. So you're asking for a similar envelope of funds for Canada Day 2021?
We are asking for the same budget line for 2021.
Okay.
With the idea that we'll do whatever we can do.
Yes. Yeah, there's, I think, quite a bit of unpredictability. Heather, could we have Pollock slow down the slide presentation so that we could at least get to the financial breakdown, please? That's probably the most helpful at this stage. As Pollock is doing that, I'll go to council colleagues. I think you're extremely aware, Samantha and Wendy, that we were thrilled with the very creative virtual efforts that took place in 2020, and understand it may look very similar, or there may be a hybrid, right? Depending on the public health landscape.
Depending on what we're able to do, we will make something work.
Indeed, of course. Okay, so
the financials, though, if you can go to the financial page.
Yeah, we're just waiting for that to pop up.
I think one of the things that the KDCA, the Grenville District Community Association, is most proudest of is how much we were able to give back to the community with the program that we had, which with the gift card prizes, for instance, were all purchased from community businesses and were used within the community. And I think that was one of our biggest wow factors. The round circle.
Yeah, that's great. It's really neat. It was very gratifying to be able to see that as you guys were making the plans and incentivizing people to participate, and of course then recognizing some of the winners of the various contests. It was wonderful.
And collaborating with Juice FM, well, Moose FM now,
yes,
but Juice FM at the time, and NG Times during the whole process, and being able to reach out to our community throughout was amazing.
Great. Just remind us, and I'm looking to council colleagues for any questions, how many people worked on the steering committee on the Canada Day 2020?
Well, our board was joined by, I think, 17 different members that came into our subcommittees throughout the process. So it was
a lot of hands, eh?
There was a lot of people that came into play. Our subcommittees really came into fruition this year.
Wonderful. Many hands make light work. So council colleagues, I can't see everyone. If you could just intervene with your voice if you have a question. I'm not hearing anyone. Wendy, I think the work speaks.
Come on, no questions.
So you're looking for $12,000 to support whatever Canada Day looks like in 2021.
Whatever the budget line is, and yes. And there is the budget line. We still owe the municipality back that amount. So we'll discuss that as well.
And did you fundraise other sources or was the 12K sufficient?
Not for 2020. We
Okay.
we didn't feel comfortable going out to businesses to
sure.
fundraise.
Okay.
So we focused merely on the budget we had and worked within that budget this year.
Okay. Great. Certainly a number of people asked about fireworks, which I think are those are municipally led activities. Is that the case?
Yes, so the fireworks were paid for 2020,
Okay.
but we didn't utilize those. So the fireworks are already prepaid
Okay.
for whenever we can have fireworks again.
Okay.
So our budget line that we have always has that line and that the money goes, and I think there's about $8,400 that goes to fireworks every
Okay.
year. So that's already prepaid for 2021. If we're allowed to do fireworks, otherwise we'll
Right.
see what the contract is and whether that company is willing to forward it again.
Okay, very helpful to know. I know it was missed, certainly, and some municipalities were able to do a modest fireworks celebration. So I think it's something council wants to look at this year, providing, public health provisions allow us to proceed. Council colleagues.
Anything we're allowed to do.
Indeed, of course.
Herb, do you need fireworks for the skating rink to launch it?
Exactly.
No.
It would be very safe.
I believe that's contracted directly from the municipality to the company, so it's not something.
It is contracted
yeah.
by the municipality. It's outside of the KDCA realm.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my understanding as well.
Yeah.
Last call, council colleagues. We good?
I would just say, Wendy, I think this is and Samantha and the rest of the KDCA team, I think this is the one of the best examples we had in the last year of taking a huge community event and making it totally work within the constraints and restrictions that we have for COVID. So unfortunately, we may have to have those same kind of rules apply again this year, just given where we're at right now. But even if we don't, I think it's going to work regardless. So not a question, but I thought it was great. My team didn't do so well, but we had a lot of fun trying. So
we're thinking outside the box and a little bit more experienced now. So
yeah,
if we have to do it virtual, we've got a few other thoughts.
And you set a pretty high bar with Goose Chase, so I don't know how you're going to do that one again.
Oh, we will.
Councillor O'Sullivan wants to get in quickly. Councillor O'Sullivan.
Very quickly, I loved the Goose Chase, and my aim next year is to move up from 8th position, even higher. So it was a great job. I loved it. Thanks.
Nice.
I think that lots of people who connected into the Virtual Canada Day felt very gratified by all of the efforts, and the extremely hard work and commitment was very evident on that day. So thank you very much.
If we have to do it again,
great. Good.
It'll work.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to leave it there. I don't see council needing to ask more questions. Thank you, Wendy and Samantha, for your time. Okay, now we have another proposal. Am I misreading this? KDCA and the community associations of Burts Rapids, Bishop Mills, and Oxford Mills. Wendy and Herb, are you game for this one? This is the Meet Me at Main Street piece. Okay.
Yeah, so Herb and I are presenting this one.
All right. We invite you to transition to that presentation. Thank you. After COVID times, the Meet Me on Main Street, I think will be very well embraced whenever it happens. Over to you both. Go ahead.
So we put the application in 2019 for Meet Me on Main Street in collaboration with Burts Rapids, Bishop Mills, and Oxford Mills, with the idea that we were going to do 4 consecutive Sundays of Meet Me on Main events throughout North Grenville. Obviously, we didn't get to do that in 2020, but we would like to still hope that we can do it in fall of 2021. So what you're seeing on your screen right now is basically the presentation that we had for last year. And we don't really have a lot to work with because we've never done this before.
And that's the totality of the presentation, or is there more?
Next screen.
Thank you.
Next screen.
did you, I'll just jump in a little bit here. We can go through the next screen too while I'm talking if you want, just to speed things up. The 4 community associations are all on board to work together to bring a really unique community event to the 4 hamlets, Kempville, Ocean Mills, First Rapids, and Bishops Mills. And this is basically a copy of what North Dundas does. Next screen. And what they have been really successful with, which is running programs that really target local involvement while showcasing those hamlets as the uniqueness of that hamlet. Sometimes we spend so much time in Kempville or in one area, we don't really see a lot of Bishops Mills and understand that they have a community center, they have a nice area, they have some really unique things and history in that area. So the Meet Me on Main is predominantly to let each hamlet divvy up the funds that we're asking for to put on their own unique theme that complements their hamlet or their town. Next screen. You can take over from here, Wendy.
So we've talked about doing a corn roast, and we've talked about doing an apple fest in different areas over the course of the last year and a half. Many different events that we can do. The key ingredient is the fact that these are, the Meet Me on Main is what it says, meet me. So we have to be very conscientious about what's going on in the world today in order to be able to move forward with this, but we don't know what's going to happen over the next 6 months. So the intent is to set something up that will allow the different hamlets in our community to showcase their value, like Herb said, and their individualism, but at the same time, something that's going to create a community event and draw people in.
Great. Anything else to add?
I would just like to add, if Wendy's okay with it, just to say quickly that this format of what we're trying to do has been established in other communities, and it has been really well received, and it's actually something that the community residents look forward to. It's not a big cost, but I can't put my finger on why it's been so successful. But if you go to any of these, Meet Me on Main, they're very successful. The communities and the family values accepting of new residents and welcoming of diversity and cultures, and everyone just seems to have this big kind of love fest in these events that are locally growing. And I just think if you ever have a chance to go to one, you'd realize that for some reason they're just really well attended, they're really well thought of, and they're fun to be a part of.
The idea is that it will definitely become an integral part of our communities going forward.
Great. Well, I recall distinctly Eric Duncan presenting right on that model as it was delivered right in SDNG, and clearly it had its own momentum. I relate to them in Newfoundland. There are come home years, right? So these are annual, right? Sometimes day-long, week-long festivities that bring people together. So I think we were very hopeful, obviously in pre-pandemic times, that we could launch this program.
In Nova Scotia, they call it homecoming.
What's that?
In Nova Scotia, they call it homecoming.
Exactly. I'm sure every province has their own variation.
Exactly.
I know Councillor Sullivan in particular, among others, was extremely enthusiastic to get these off the ground. So I'll turn it over to Council really quickly for any questions. I have Deputy Mayor and I'm seeing Councillor Barkley. Have I missed anyone? Nope. Okay, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Barkley. And please ask your questions one after the other, and then we'll turn to the presenters. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Okay, so this is for Wendy and Herb then. You mentioned the amount of money you're asking for isn't a large amount, especially when you're dividing it between 4 communities. Can you give us an idea, just an idea breakdown then, if it's such a small amount, what is it primarily going to be marketing, or how would you divide it up? And also, do you say to each community, this is what you've got to spend the money on, or are you leaving it open to them? Do you have some kind of boundaries there? Just wondering how that works.
And I'll go to, I'm sorry, it was Councillor Barkley, right? Councillor Barkley, go ahead, and then we'll go to the presenters.
Yeah, congratulations to KDCA. I think you were able to transition Canada Day quite easily into a virtual event. But if things don't change, or if they change too slowly for a kind of meet and greet event, what happens then?
Okay, over to
We answer now?
Yep.
Okay. So Jim, the answering Jim McManaman, the Oxford Mills Community Association, as well as Burris Rapids and Bishop Mills, are working with us right now. We provided the budget based on the conversations we had at that time, and we are okay with that budget for all 4 organizations to set forth the Meet Me on Main. As it grows, we may see different sponsorship programs and whatnot, but right now we can put what we want to put in place with that budget. As far as whether we can do this going forward in accordance to John's Barkley's comment, we have a cutoff date of June 1st, June 15th, and no monies would be spent until we know whether we can actually do what we want to do. This event has to come out of the gates the way we want to see it. Although we can't do a virtual event for the Meet Me on Main.
Okay. Herb, do you want to add? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Jim's comment, which is a very good one, is the breakdown in funds. Nobody knows right now, because we're not quite sure if for example, if the Kempville Community Association wants to do a corn roast, the cost involved doing a corn roast and maybe have live local music for the afternoon might be more to put on for 800 people that would show up versus what the expectation would be in or Bishop Mills. Maybe 500 people would show up. So the funding is going to be have to be a big conversation for us as we move closer to the event. But it's a good question, and the funding would be controlled by each hamlet. It's not distributed in a singular disbursement from the KDCA or from. We're all going to work together, and we're going to hash that out as a group. And as far as the change of John's question, I agree with Wendy 100%. No one really knows yet, but this is a fall event, September. So we're crossing our fingers that at least everybody in North Grenville will be vaccinated.
We're basically hoping that we're still on the roster. We do believe this is a very solid event going forward. And as we presented this in fall of 2019, we're approved for 2020. We didn't want to let it drop.
Thank you.
You're on mute, Nancy.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. So did I see someone else gesturing, or can we move on, council colleagues? Are we good? We appreciate your efforts, Wendy and Herb. Thank you. We're very enthusiastic, I think, to see Meet Me on Main Street take flight. So we'll wait and see. Thank you for the ongoing efforts in that regard. Council colleagues, I'm going to move on to the next one unless there's any last minute questions. Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you very much. So we're going to the next presentation, which is Kempville and District Home Support. I know you have a slightly different name now. I apologize if I'm not reading it exactly as it is. Welcome, Dawn, the newly minted Executive Director. Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Seniors Community Services. Thank you. Good now.
You're right. We do have a new forward-facing look from Kempville District Home Support to Seniors Community Services with a new tagline, Living Well in Your Community. So I'd just like to quickly thank you for this opportunity to speak this evening in celebration of our 40th year. As you can see, we've rebranded for a new look and feel for our organization. Next slide, please. So as we celebrate our 40 years, the collective impact of our organization is 140 volunteers led by 4 full-time staff, typically in a good year, we serve 600 clients offering 10 different programs. Next slide, please. So our services and program, I'm not sure why that's, oh, there it is. So our services and programs that we offer, there's 10 programs. In addition, we provide escorted transportation. So for our focus this evening is escorted transportation, which is provided to seniors within the North Grenville area, Winchester, trips to Ottawa, Kingston, Smiths Falls, Perth, and Brockville. You can see that we service a wide area of kilometers for individuals living within the North Grenville area. Next slide, please. So for the purpose of this presentation to council, we're requesting ongoing support. Last year, we were very fortunate to receive council support to the tune of $12,500. This year, we're asking for the same budget line to help support transportation going forward. Next slide, please. So this slide provides a breakdown of our funding. Our budget to date typically is projected at $470,000. The exciting part this year, the Ontario Trillium Foundation has acknowledged our past efforts and future work in supporting us with a $77,000 grant for additional staffing and some equipment. So in addition to our base funding for the LIN, our United Way funding, municipal funding awarded in the past, and then our service revenue, we are still at a loss of $25,000 to run our transportation program. Next slide, please. So in 2019-2020, 33 volunteers provided 4,740 drives with 5 companion volunteers. So other area with, at the beginning of, towards the end of March, we really saw our volunteer program start to transform. Within other agencies, their volunteer-driven program imploded. We were very fortunate to still have 18 volunteers remain with our organization, and from April 1st to December 31st, provide 1,673 door-to-door drives with a reduction in companion volunteers due to COVID. So when we look at the economic benefit of 1,673 drives, that equates to about 829 hours. So that's time, talent, and skills that volunteers have reinvested into our organization and as well into the health of the community. So we very strongly feel that our community is much healthier with the participation of these volunteers, and also for their support and the experience that they get. Oftentimes friendships evolve out of these driving experiences.
1 minute remaining.
Next slide, please. So the escorted transportation program is more than just a drive. The staff here at the center oversee all of the compliance, privacy laws, insurance, the referrals, and also providing a van for transportation. Next slide, please. So we provide assistance with for the client in and out of the home, companion animals, service animals to accompany the individual on their trips. We do custom driver training for all of our volunteers, as well as supporting the client for physical or cognitive impairment. Next slide, please. So how would we measure the impact of this investment? The most important point I can make here is our partnership with Queen's University, the graduate program. We have a student completing her master's in aging and health, and the outcome of this partnership will be that tangible evidence, the impact that the escorted transportation program makes on our community. Next slide, please.
And that's 5 minutes.
So the client testimonials are, everybody within this meeting has many testimonials that they could share of the impact of their organization or event. There's just a couple testimonials that we've been able to provide. COVID has definitely impacted what we've been able to do, but certainly we've pivoted and returned to service as best we can, given the circumstances and the type of environment that we're all working in. And that next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation for this evening. So I thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Dawn. I'm going to start and then I'll look to council colleagues. So specifically, I mean, people still went to medical appointments, right? After I think a certain period of interruption. What did you see in terms of that demand, you know, for those rides, that assistance to a variety of medical appointments? How did people navigate that? They just, was there additional volume of appointments once people got back in the system after that initial interruption from COVID?
Prior to my time, my understanding was, prior to my time joining the organization, that there were, with the reduction in volunteers, then other volunteers stepped up, but there was a lot of reconfiguring, rescheduling with appointments. So individuals who couldn't have appointments, obviously during the 3-week shutdown, there was a lot of rescheduling happening, but consistently we're accompanying clients to medical appointments, new medical diagnosis appointments, if we can, as well as life-sustaining appointments, which would be dialysis. These individuals are going to Winchester or Ottawa 3 times a week, and they're relying heavily on our program because it's very affordable and it's personal.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
I see Councillor O'Sullivan. Anyone else who wants to I see Councillor Barkley and Deputy Mayor. Okay, so we'll start with Councillor O'Sullivan. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Dawn, for the presentation and the great service that this provides to our community. I just have a question. I know that many appointments have been switched, medical appointments have been switched to virtual ones, and that there's also, from personal experience, I know that some of my patients have not been very comfortable with the virtual formats. So is there any support for those clients that you have that need some assistance with virtual online appointments? Are you able to provide that?
Absolutely. We have a staff member who's spearheading the online virtual platform and definitely able to walk people through troubleshooting, you know, remote access to their computer. If we're not able to solve the problem, we definitely refer to the local computer company that supports us. Emmerich is fantastic. So we work close with our partners to make sure that there's a solution for them.
Great, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
And I'll take Councillor Barkley and Deputy Mayor next. We'll do both questions and then go back to Dawn. So
Okay.
Councillor Barkley, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just looking at your funding page, Dawn. Thank you for the presentation. And it indicates, you know, your projected budget for this coming year, and it includes a potential grant from the municipality, just as we did last year. But at the end, you say there's still going to be a significant shortfall of 25,000, and then in order to sustain it, an additional 65,000 on top of that, or I'm a little confused about that.
Within the 65,000, the $25,000 is included. So we're having to fundraise a total of $65,000 in order to sustain all our programs and services. And of that, 25,000 is dedicated to transportation.
Okay, so you still, after a grant from the municipality, you still have a shortfall of 25,000 as far as transportation goes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Mine's more of a comment, Dawn. Congratulations on your position, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
We look forward to working with you. I worked closely with Susan for the last couple of years on some projects, and it was a lot of fun. So that's about all I got, but I would say congratulations again too that you guys kept that program going, because you know, not everybody can avoid these critical appointments that were necessary, and you guys kept it going. And even though the rides dropped, I'm sure they were very important rides to get people where they had to get to. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Well, I really have to give kudos where kudos is deserved. That's certainly the team, and under Susan's leadership, they really were able to pivot and change and address the changing circumstances. So I appreciate everybody's time this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna, for being here. We look forward, I think, to doing what we can to continue the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go next to the Grenville Youth Center, and I see that we have both Ms. Barb Tobin and Bruce with us this evening. And we'll just take a minute to upload your presentation. There it is. Okay, fire away.
So we're going to hold on that very first slide and then end with all the lovely photos you're about to see. And thank you for the opportunity. I do have joining me, President Bruce Willow is here tonight. He says he's not going to say anything, but I think we convince him maybe he can. This year's community grant request comes on the recommendation of the board's building committee, who keeps the KYC building in shape and ready to be used by KYC and also the community at large. Replacing the flooring in the lower main level with the similar foam tiles that we've been using, which have been well maintained over time by our community living partners whose clients clean our space, have just done such a great job, they've worn themselves out. The budget we're requesting is $600 for materials, and the floor will be installed by our volunteers. Just to note, last year KYC volunteers exceeded 1,200 hours of time, support, and a lot of sweat equity. We believe we can measure your investment through our yearly attendance numbers at KYC and also the spaces available to the community for not-for-profits and for-profit organizations, which certainly targets your investing in community goal in your council work plan. Currently, we have a for-profit tenant, the Kumon School, 2 days a week. Other rental tenants have included Shake a Paw Business. Our facility is used by the Lions Club and available to the Rotary Club for their meetings. We have had the space available for the Grenville Musical Theatre for their auditions, the Boy Scouts for first aid training, and we have a meeting space, been using the meeting space when available and non-COVID times. The health unities use it for the Teen Summit and some of their workshops. For KYC youth, this space is the area that they can exercise indoors during open hours in winter or hot summer days. It's also a place to gather to enjoy meals as a group in a welcoming environment. Our safe space and the 26-year established role KYC plays in our community for youth has never been made more clear than during these very difficult times as a resource for youth mental health as a community support system. Another very important goal and objective as a council you have established in your work plan. So I just asked that the staff member would just go through the slides as time permits in our 5-minute or 4-minute time here that's left, and have a look, and happy to answer your questions, and enjoy.
Thank you, both Barbara and Bruce. Barbara, I think we'd be certainly interested in just hearing a little more about the pivot. I know obviously there was a temporary closure, as was the case for nearly everyone. How has it been delivering programs during COVID times? And what have you seen in terms of youth needs?
So certainly youth needs were very evident. As I said, mental health has been something we have had a concern about, but we were very quickly able to set up within the first month online programming. And it was through our Instagram and Facebook pages. Our numbers were totaling 4,000 to 5,000 hits with youth and many participating in the programs. We're very fortunate, I would say, to have great staff. We utilize co-op students from Algonquin and St. Lawrence College, but our program coordinator also is a teacher in training. So her ability to put together programming that's effective and understand what youth are going through has been excellent. You can see the variety of program you're seeing out here. There's a distanced hike from this summer using our community local. We very much have turned to the community and utilized the community for space to get outdoors or to get into a facility. Here you can see us at Turnout Stables. So we were able to pivot outdoors for a number of activities once we were back in, and we are very fortunate that the Grenville Youth Center building is such a large facility that it creates natural distancing. Although the couches in between where there are 3 seats, there are now 2, and all these signs, the youth have become very accustomed and very quickly adapted. and also participated in the book fair, a number of the projects that they like to get involved with. So we were able to pivot. We're pivoted obviously back online now currently. We are seeing perhaps a little, what I would coin from our coordinator, a little computer fatigue now that the youth are back in school. Certainly it's a lot of screen time, and as much as we want to believe that's what they love, the actual physical contact or face-to-face that they can have. There's our dedicated board there. They've been very supportive in making sure we could pivot, and we're ready to come back again. We are probably well equipped thanks to many grants that we received from the federal government and the United Way to provide COVID preparation. There is nowhere you can't turn that you can't stick your hand out and sanitize. And as I said, staff are excellent, as are the youth, and understanding the need for distancing and still being able to enjoy programming.
Thanks, appreciate that. I'll look to council colleagues. Any questions? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Hi, Barb. Great presentation. You do a great job of this, and thanks for doing what you do. The youth center definitely needs great people. The space rental, I didn't know you were so extensive, and it's more of a comment, I guess, that you rent out your space, or had been able to rent out your space through such a large community base. I'm glad to know, because there's always people asking about space. Question I had for you though: have you been able to utilize, or are you planning to utilize some of the space on the campus, or have you made any connections with the staff on campus and potential youth programs going forward? I know Nancy and I sit on the board, and we've got some new youth programs going forward that we're looking at, and we're always looking for more, of course. And the schools, of course, having 450 students now on campus has helped to spearhead some of that. I was just wondering what your thoughts were with the campus, if you've considered that or been involved in that.
Well, absolutely. And one of our board members is Claude Smith, who works in your horticultural area. So Claude has generously offered many times, and we will follow up with those things in terms of being able to visit the site for her programming, and which she's worked in a small manner in the center. We also have a partnership with exchanging of materials, actually, with some of our French language boards there. And we are fortunate as well that our program coordinator is bilingual. And so we have been reaching out. We have youth that do come from the schools, and it's been a great partnership sort of in the developing stages, Jim, I think, and there's more to come.
That's great. Great. Thanks, Barb.
Okay. I'm not seeing any further questions. Again, Barb, thank you. I can only imagine it was obviously a complicated year in terms of being innovative and adaptive in terms of some of that programming, but I think we've always been very grateful to have the youth center as such an integral part of the community, and appreciate all of the work. And congratulations on what I understand, certainly from Bruce, was an outstanding book fair year. So it was really nice to hear that fundraiser remained a very successful one for you, and I hope the community comes out in fine force again. But it's obviously a really worthy effort that you and your board colleagues are making. So thank you very much.
Yes, so I just want to finish that, Mayor, by just saying that, yes, Herculean effort by the board in terms of their fundraising capabilities in very difficult times, and putting it into a COVID blanket as they did was remarkable. It really was. And our numbers online, just for example, to show the community use there of the book fair and the importance of it to the community. We went from our normal 5,000 to 6,000 to around 12,000 to 15,000 every 4-week period. So it was very evident that community needed to have an outlet for release, and the board certainly provided that for them. So it was a benefit to KYC, but I think it was certainly a benefit to the community, right. And probably people are at home reading their books now. I can see it now.
Yes, good point. Bruce, is there anything you want to add? You're here. You might as well say like 3 words, something, but you're on mute. You're okay? Okay. We can't hear you, Bruce, but I think you're saying you're good. Yes, Barbara, I think you've said it all, and you've said it very well. So appreciate your time and efforts, and thank you for being here. And as council, obviously, we'll take very seriously your very modest proposal. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Much too modest.
There you go, Bruce. Thank you. Nice to hear your voice. Take care. We'll see you soon. Okay, Council, we'll barrel ahead unless there is an urgent need for a health break. So I'm looking to Council. Are we good to carry on? Okay, we'll go for another 15 or 20 minutes and see where we sit with the presentations. I believe we have Rebecca here with the Youth Summit. And Rebecca, I think you may be joined by a colleague. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So thank you, Mayor Peckford and councillors. Thanks for giving us this opportunity to present this evening. My name is Rebecca Shams. I'm a health promoter with the Health Unit, and I specialize in youth engagement. And I am here on behalf of my colleagues at Connect Youth, as well as the North Grenville Wellness Access for Youth, or WAY, and the rest of our planning committee, which includes young people from 3 of our local high schools. Emily Padbury is a grade 10 student at Notre Dame here, and she's joining us virtually this evening as well. So we're here today as part of this Groundhog Day time warp that we're in, because you'll see this presentation looks very similar to the one that we did last year. It was to hold a one-day youth summit in the fall of 2020. Pandemic forced a postponement of that. So we would like to take those unused funds that were granted last year by the municipality and hopefully be granted them again in 2021 so that we can plan the youth summit in this coming fall. And also just so we can continue the youth engagement process that has been started. I think that this very nicely meets the municipality's work plan goal of under a safe, healthy, and cohesive community. It will increase community cohesion, as well as investing in and celebrating our community assets, which I think we can all agree, young people are definitely a huge asset to the community. So the objectives of our youth summit will be to build and foster youth connections in North Grenville. It'll be an opportunity for youth to hear from and learn from their peers, including fellow youth and young adult leaders. And the summit planning and implementation is also a great opportunity for youth to connect with their community as well as their adult allies. The summit will offer a forum for youth to engage in topics that interest them and impact them as well as their community. The specific topics will be determined by the planning committee, but right now they include things like recreation and leisure opportunities, arts and culture, employment and volunteer positions, transportation, environment, mental health, and healthy relationships. We'll also be offering a safe space for youth voices to be recognized, respected, and valued, as well as plan for sustainability. And we'll do that by evaluating the summit, sharing that report back with council that provides recommendations and next steps on youth engagement in the community. And building and strengthening our community partnerships locally will also support sustainability around community youth engagement moving forward. And I think Emily is going to speak to the next slide.
We have several partners and adult allies that have been engaged in our planning discussions so far, which include the Connect Youth, the Wellness Access for Youth, the Health Unit, the Municipality of North Grenville, the Kempville Youth Centre, the YMCA of Eastern Ontario, the North Grenville Public Library, the Kempville Christian Reformed Church, and the Volunteer Centre of Leeds in Grenville. More partners are welcome to join, and we encourage other partners to consider how they would like to be involved. We currently have 5 or 6 youth who regularly attend our meetings, including myself, and hope to further involve local young people in the planning process and promotion of the summit. To date, we have engaged 13 unique youth over our 6 meetings held in 2020. We had 2 in person and 4 virtual.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. We actually had our first 2021 meeting just this afternoon, a few hours earlier. We can go to the next slide. So this whole process is going to be very youth-led. It's going to involve a lot of principles of youth engagement. One of my favorite sayings is nothing about us without us. And I recently heard another saying when I was working with some partners and adult allies, where the youth who were developing a specific program, this one happened to be around mental wellness, but the youth said, we would rather be the program than the reason for the program. So we really want to use good youth engagement principles so that young people are involved in developing it. We will be using the young people, of course, they'll be collaborating with us that are on the committee, as well as young people who aren't on the committee. We will reach out to them in existing forums, such as schools, the youth center, church groups, so that they can have input into planning the summit as well. And then the actual summit implementation will be very much led by young people from every piece of it. We can go to the next slide.
And that's
And thank you. The value of youth engagement certainly couldn't fit on one slide, but we will just hit the highlights. So engaging young people definitely encourages lifelong engagement in their community, and that's great for rural areas that are really looking to retain young people after they've gone off to university. It will improve health and developmental outcomes across the spectrum. Two of the main ones are decreased substance use and improved school performance. It builds leadership skills. And the bottom line is the end result of whatever young people are involved in is better because they were involved in it. Next slide, please. I don't need to go down through the whole breakdown. This hasn't changed from last year. This funding would support a one-day youth summit for 50 local youth. We would keep it open to young people who live, learn, work, or play in North Grenville. We've already received additional funds from WAY, the Wellness Access for Youth, and that has supported the actual youth engagement process of our summit planning and our meetings that we've held so far. We're also seeking some additional non-municipal funding because we want to continue this engagement process and not wait all the way until the fall. So we're going to be building on some of the community learnings already around scavenger hunts, and we're planning a spring scavenger hunt for youth. And then in the fall, we'll be planning the summit. And I think that's it. Oh, we also did include in our submission that we're hoping council could consider this budget line as on an annual basis so that it can keep supporting continued youth engagement in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca and Emily. I certainly appreciate this. A quick question before I turn to council colleagues. Have you, so you are planning currently an in-person summit. That's what I'm hearing, right? Fully in-person in the fall, which I think we're expecting will look more normal than the last 18 months would have by then. Okay. And
yes,
have you considered any virtual participation? I only ask because being the parent of 3 school-age kids, and of course, so is Councillor Strachan, and Councillor Sullivan is actively grandparenting 3 kids. We can all see some of the virtual and hybrid spaces that are now in play. And I've wondered if it would actually make sense to stream part of the conference or to, you know, accommodate some of those virtual participation options, just so that we could potentially go beyond the 50 or incorporate, you know, or use some platforms to stream parts of the conference that might reach youth who wouldn't necessarily self-identify with the conference, but might have, you know, an interest in some of the themes. And for Emily, I'm interested to just hear from Emily what motivated her to join the organizing committee.
I'll let you go first, Emily.
I wanted to join because it's easy to know your classmates, but you don't know a lot of other people your age in other schools. So this is a good way to meet people your age who might have the same interests, but from a different school that you wouldn't know had you not been through that process.
Great, thanks, Emily.
And thanks, Mayor Peckford, for that question. Actually, we had not even considered doing a hybrid event. Earlier on, we thought about doing the summit virtually, but because this is the first one of its kind, it seemed very difficult to create those connections virtually. If we had had the summit in 2019, I think we could have had a follow-up quite easily virtually, building on those connections that were made. But the idea of making this a hybrid is incredible. I think that's a great idea. I will definitely bring that forward to the committee to expand. We had asked for one of our other people that we were asking for funding from. It's the North Grenville Community Fund. We had asked them for some additional funding because early on in our planning process, we found that just the young people that were sitting around the table, we'd maxed out at 50 with each of them just bringing 5 friends. So we had wanted to just up the funding a little bit so we could expand it to a larger pool of young people. But I love the hybrid idea. Thank you.
Okay. I'll go to council colleagues. Deputy Mayor.
Hi, great job, guys. Interesting curtain behind you, by the way, Rebecca, I think.
Thanks.
Anyways, Emily, this is a question for you. I hope you don't mind talking to old guys too, as well as your young counterparts. So what do you think, Emily, what are you thinking that your youth will get out of this program? And I understand it's only once a year. Maybe you'd be looking at maybe doing something more regularly, quarterly or something like that. But so what are your thoughts for the youth are going to get out of this particular program?
I think a lot of youth might not know there are certain like businesses or programs available in the community. So I think this is a good way to introduce that to them, because some of them just go to school and then don't do anything else. Where if they could learn about this through school, we can show them what our community has to offer.
Great answer. Love it.
Emily, what's your, if we could just ask one follow-up, I don't see other colleagues gesturing. What's your sense of using social media as part of the forum? Obviously I know there's a lot of different platforms out there and parents have different rules, right? For different kids, but what's your sense of how to reach that maximum number of youth? And do you think social media is a pretty key part of that in terms of actually getting people to participate in the summit, whether it's in person or possibly online? What's your take on the best way to promote it?
Well, we have talked about that a bit, and we've discussed the possibility of having it through social media. We're having like things where you could repost it, and so we can spread an awareness through the social media and then through the schools as well, and other programs that the youth on the committee might be tied to, so that we can reach the most people as possible.
And do you have a preferred social media platform yourself? Are you on social media?
I am. I find that Instagram is the more common one against young people, along with Snapchat, but I haven't had much experience with that one. So I think that was our main goal, was through Instagram, because I know a lot of people my age tend to have it.
Awesome. Thank you. And what is your school? What is your home school?
I go to Académie Catholique Notre-Dame at the campus.
Merci pour votre présentation. Anything else, colleagues? Seeing none? Oh, Councillor Sullivan, quickly, go ahead.
Just very quickly, thank you both for the presentation. Emily, it's good to see you again. I haven't seen you since we were on the curling ice, and very happy to see you both, and all the best with this summit. So I think it's a great idea. Thanks again. That's all.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca, for sustaining the efforts, even without a end date, if you will, or a consolidated date, given the ebbs and flows of COVID. We appreciate all the work and the foundational efforts. I know they will bear fruit, and I think all of council is really anxious for this thing to take flight. So appreciate you and Emily and your youth colleagues for joining in. It matters a lot, and I know how much this council cares about really understanding what the experiences of diverse youth are in the community. So want to thank you and others joining you for your commitment and time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on. We'll keep barreling ahead. And we'll see how far we get. We'll welcome Richard Chartrand and Mark Nadeau, who are with the Oxford Mills Community Association. Thank you. Just waiting to upload the presentation, and just reminding everyone, I have to say the discipline this evening has been exemplary. So appreciate all of our presenters' efforts to stay within the 5-minute mark. It means a lot. Thanks.
I don't have a PowerPoint, so there's nothing to bring up.
Oh, there isn't. Okay, apologies. Okay. All right, so take it away, Richard. Are you here with Mark, or is it just yourself?
Yeah, Mark is here. I'm going to start off, and then I'll refer over to Mark as well.
Okay.
So I'd like to start off by, first of all, thanking everyone for the opportunity to present. I'm representing the Oxford Mills Community Association, although what we're asking for has to do with one of the buildings in Oxford Mills. We don't own the building. We rent it on a regular basis. I'm referring to Maplewood Hall, which is a great building. We've done a lot of things in there, from pancake breakfast. Of course, this was all pre-COVID, and Canada Day events, Easter egg hunts, Halloween events, whatnot. And of course, a lot of things we do in the Maplewood Park as well. And the Oxford Mill Community Association does a great job, and I'm not referring to me here, I'm referring to the other great members that are there that are doing stuff of really creating a sense of community in Oxford Mills. And particularly, I think they've risen to the occasion during recent times when people's morale has been tested more than ever, arguably. And what we're looking at, we know that at some point we will begin to meet again in the Maplewood Hall, like real people. And we think that one of the things that would be helpful is if the hall could be equipped with Wi-Fi. In the future, I know that the municipality could benefit from this in general, because I know the municipality rents out this hall not only to people from Oxford Mills, but all over North Grenville. And I think it would have more appeal to be rented to various businesses or other people who may want to use the hall if it had Wi-Fi. Going forward, I think, for me, it's just my opinion, it's a given that as we go back to in-person meetings, we will need to offer hybrid versions. In other words, we will need to make it available for people who can't make it, maybe are not yet comfortable meeting in person, whatnot, to be able to attend virtually so that meetings can be hybrid of in-person and Zoom. So basically, I mean, very simply, my presentation would be one of the shortest ones, I think that Wi-Fi could be good. But piggybacking with that is we've also given thought to the idea that the Maplewood Hall, in a crisis situation such as an ice storm like we had some years back where there were widespread power outages, could be used as a shelter. And to that end, we'd like, and I don't know if this is the proper term because I'm not technically good at it. I'm not an electrician anyway, but I think it's called something like a pony box that would allow the electricity in the hall to be used via a generator if the normal grid went off. And in that way, it could be used as an emergency shelter for people should the need ever arise. Kind of falls into one of those things that better to have it and never need it than need it and not have it. And we think that would be, again, it's a central place. It's right next to the fire hall there. And I think that could be very helpful. I guess if I put my salesman's hat on, the other thing I would say is with Wi-Fi and that equipment, possibly could create more revenue for the municipality because they could raise the amount for which they rented and justifiably so because it provides a hall that's better equipped and probably get more rentals. There may have been other people in the past who have looked at renting the hall who, when they realized it didn't have Wi-Fi, perhaps needed to find a place that did. Mark, would you have anything to add to this, please? You're muted.
That's the 4-minute mark.
So you have 1 minute, Mark, to wrap it all up.
All right. I just want to say that our efforts with the OMCA have tried to build social cohesion through all the things that we do. We're a rural hamlet, and there aren't a lot of opportunities for people to get together. And that hall has always been very important to us, as we had a lease history with it over a number of years. There was a number of intentions to improve upon the hall, in particular the acoustics, to make it a better, perhaps a performance center. And those are still in the back of our mind, but this Wi-Fi idea has come forward, and we would like to latch on to anything that would help make the hall a more attractive facility for the community and for the municipality.
Has anyone reflected on the costs?
Yes, I was speaking and I believe it's Kevin Henry. He was helpful and he's given me a breakdown of what the costs would be. Did you want, it's all in the proposal, but did you want me to list them for you out loud?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I just don't see a presentation attached.
Oh, I see. No, but in my proposal, I mean, so basically what I was told was that the Wi-Fi install, the install itself would be about $1,000, and then the monthly fees would be in the neighborhood of about $100 a month to maintain. And for the electrical system they're referring to, there are two different options. One is a Generalink system, which looks like it would be about $5,000, but it also pointed out that a preferred option would be a 16 kilowatt standby unit. I don't even know what any of that means, but the price of it would be $12,000.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so thank you for that. I think, and I'm assuming the wireless in the building would also be accessible in the park, right? That it would emanate outward, so that it wouldn't be just specific to the building, but that people that were in the park could also avail of it.
I assume that's the case. I guess it depends on how powerful it is, right?
Okay. So before turning it to council colleagues, I think it begs the question of what we might do in Bishop Mills, where they also have significant challenges, though obviously the building is managed separately. So to that end, maybe it doesn't beg the question, but certainly I think a very worthwhile initiative to put on our radar, because given the internet challenges across North Grenville, I see immense value in connectivity of all kinds. Council colleagues, any questions? Go ahead, Council Barkley.
Just a comment that this proposal in terms of Wi-Fi is a revenue possible, creates another revenue stream for the municipality in terms of rentals. So I think that should be looked at with that in mind. That's all. But thanks, Richard, and thanks, Mark.
I know we have initiated at the municipality a connectivity plan, I'm saying, which will assess in a more rigorous fashion where the connectivity gaps are. And anyway, I think that may help to inform whether or not, if this kind of investment was made, what does it look like in and around the neighboring streets and area of Oxford Mills? I assume, Richard and Mark, in your neck of the woods in Oxford Mills, how is the rural broadband? Are you well served?
I'm speaking for myself. My internet is good. My cell phone doesn't work in the house, but my internet
broadband,
is
you have reasonably good rural broadband.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And Mark, what's your understanding of the situation in Oxford Mills?
I have cable access,
okay,
but I use DSI, which is sufficient.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay. Anyway, those are just some additional considerations. I'll look to council colleagues. Anything else, council? Seeing nothing. Good. Appreciate this. Thank you both for your leadership at Oxford Mills Community Association. Much appreciated. And I still have the sign, as I think we all do, that you guys produced from the early days of COVID on my porch. So I know that you're very, very active and connecting with residents on a daily and weekly basis. And we appreciate all you're doing on behalf of the association. Council colleagues, it's come to my attention that we do need to take a break. So I know Mike and Julie, I think you're queued up next, but we are going to take 7 minutes. It's been almost 2 hours. So I'm just asking colleagues, council colleagues, just mute and stop your video, and we'll come back and start at 8:30 and wrap things up. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much.
Is Sarah there?
I would hope, well, we have first Ron and Julie and Mike.
I'm just thinking, Sarah, next year she's going to put A1 Winter Trails Group.
Okay, I think we're back. I'm going to check with our clerk. Heather, are we good to go?
Just checking. 1, 2, 3. Yes, we are.
Great. Okay. And it's all live streamed. We can start talking. Thank you. Okay. So next we have the pleasure of welcoming representatives from the Royal Canadian Legion. And I believe we have Mr. McIntosh with us this evening. I'm looking for Ron or Julie, or is it just Mike this evening?
It is just myself. Good evening, Mayor, Councillors. Unfortunately, Julie sends her regrets. There was a death in the family, not COVID related, a parent. So she sends her regrets. And Ron, who's the first vice president, is away, works at the front lines of the medical war right now at COVID. So he's busy tonight as well. So what I'm looking for, presenting on behalf of the Legion, was basically an ask for $2,250 for a website. I really don't need to extol the virtues of a website in the sense that everybody's quite familiar with what a website does. The Legion's been around in Kempville since 1974 and is basically a very giving type service club. If we kind of look at what we're talking about tonight, is over the last 5 years, between the Poppy Fund, which is the money we raise from selling poppies, and also the lottery fund that you were not presented with, but between the two funds, we've put back into veterans groups in the local area, as well as community groups in the local area, of approaching $150,000 into community support and veterans groups in the local area. So we are quite a giving group, and we have a lot of strength, and our members are, a lot of them were retired or ex-military. And so therefore they have a service ethos. Service is their ethos. Myself, I come from a military family. I was born and raised in an Air Force family, lived in Germany 3 times and all over Canada, made Kempville my home. My dad was a fighter pilot, and then myself, I served in the Canadian Army. So I do have kind of a childhood in the military, as well as what we call the military brat, and then my own military service. So I do come from a background, military background, as well as some of you will know me as having owned a business here in town. So when I look at the money we're looking for, $2,250 is basically to have a digital presence. We don't have any digital presence right now. And pardon the pun, but we're virtually shut down right now. The Legion is not operating in any capacity, and we cannot connect with the community, nor with any of our members right now, with the lack of any type of social media presence in terms of a website, that type of thing. So what we were looking at doing then is professionalizing a web presence, and making ourselves more transparent and open to groups in the community, so that people can get a better sense. A lot of times there's a feeling about the Legion that it's very much a military organization or past military. It is actually open to the general public. You know, we help people with funeral wakes, and there's marriage ceremonies and that type of things that can take place in there as well. There's dart clubs, there's pool hall. So there's lots of other activities in the community hall rentals that we can help the community with, and we do help the community with, as well as a list of all the various services. And this is only a partial list of the services or the groups that we assist in the community. But again, going back over the last 5 years, the big number is to say that, you know, approaching $150,000 has gone back into the community. We're self-funding, and so what we're looking for is, and I guess from a business case point of view, when I broke out this plan that I presented here, you'll probably recognize it's the same format that is being used by Digital Main Street. which is the Ontario government for the BIA and small business communities. So what I've done is I've laid out our objectives, the strength of the Legion brand, our weaknesses of the Legion brand, and then an action plan and a budget. Really what's going to happen is our objective 2021 with COVID, 2020 is a bit of a dog's breakfast. So aiming at some numbers for 2022, we're looking at growing our contributions, our fundraising by another 20% if we have a digital presence. So if we looked at that, if over a 5-year period with $150,000, if we break that down annually, that's approximately $30,000. And if we increase that by 20%, we would be looking to raise our fundraising capability by another $6,000 a year. And these numbers are rounded numbers, but it's just to give you a sense that we do have a direction, and the return on investment would be good in terms of what we give back to the community. That is really my presentation. Is just quite simple. We all know what a website does, and we would look at the money as helping us to give back even more to the local community. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that very much. So as I understand it, the Legion, of course, closed in March, and you haven't been able to open up yet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you, I mean, obviously you serve a very vulnerable population. What's your sense of a transition back to serving folks in the community?
Again, that's up to the medical authorities, and we're taking your lead.
Okay.
You know, because we're adhering to the municipal regulations in terms of what we can do and not do.
For sure. Okay. And I think we're very proud to have a Legion that I think is actually quite well subscribed, right?
We have 250 members here. It's an active Legion. It is not one of the Legions you hear about on TV that's in desperate straits. It's actually, we're one of the ones that's actually able to give. We did give not as large an amount in 2020, but we did give to a number of groups in 2020, local groups, the Beth, Donovan, again, the youth center we helped out recently, that type of thing. So we do help a lot of different local groups.
Indeed. Thank you. And from your perspective, the construction of a website or that sustained visibility on the internet, you believe is a meaningful way to grow your membership. That's what I'm hearing.
It is. We have no digital presence whatsoever right now, and there isn't any. And the other thing is too, is in terms of demographics, our group is an aging group, and the veterans that are retiring now are digital savvy. Okay, and those are the ones that we need for the new blood. And to reach out to those guys, we need to be talking to the younger vets that might be aging out at 40 or 50 through social media.
Sorry, difficulty unmuting. I was actually going to throw to Councillor Stracher-Yan on the basis of the last comments that were made. So Councillor Stracher-Yan, over to you.
Thank you for calling me one of the younger ones, Mayor Peckford. Anyway, I'll accept that. Yeah, Mike, to your point, I've certainly had conversations with serving members and ones who have recently retired, and you talk about Kempville and a great place to be, and a lot of people land here as they they're posted into Ottawa and so on because of the type of community that we have and the access to schools and everything, and then they want to be affiliated with something that has that that connection to the military and the history and what's going on, and you try and point them to a Facebook page that sometimes has some information. So I agree, it's a website's much needed. I think you and I have had this conversation a while back about the web presence and so on. So I don't have so much of a question as just I agree. I think a website is much needed, and I know that the Legion does a lot of great things in this community, and it would be great to be able to bolster that by attracting more people and young folks like me. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll go to Councillor Barkley. You're muted.
Yeah, I know. I'm got sticky fingers here. Thanks, Mike. As one Army brat to another, I'm going to put you on the spot. There are two items in your budget. One is digital platform, and the other one is some business cards, which to me is a no-brainer. If you had a third item in the budget, what would that be, and what would be the price tag attached to it?
If I had a third item in the budget, well, basically the third item was a unique email address for legal purposes, because all of our communications right now are not protected by a proper corporate identification of the Legion. And so we do all of our correspondence under Mike at Mike's house. And so that's basically free. That's my third request in the budget, and that's a free item that comes along with the website, is that we have big openings in terms of no protections on the legal side of things.
Well, let me rephrase that. If you had something that cost money, what would that budget item be?
PPE, and I would add PPE as well, and 8 automatic hand sanitizers. Try that again. 8 automatic hand sanitizers for the Legion would come in at $1,850 and change.
Thank
so
you.
I respectfully move that I can add that to my request this evening. Then, thank you. Army Brat.
I know the Legions throughout the country received modest, provincial support earlier this year. What is that being used for?
Right now, the president has that, and unfortunately, she's not here this evening. I was beginning to write a public relations piece for that, but then I was told to hold back. Our next meeting is tomorrow night, so we have not actually talked amongst the executive yet since the grant was awarded. So I'm not really at liberty to even really go there.
But you guys are still carrying rental and utility costs at the Legion, correct?
We are.
Okay.
We actually, we own our building, but we're carrying all of the heat and hydro and all of those goodies.
Okay.
Alarm systems day to day.
Okay, thanks so much. Okay. Council colleagues, anything else? We've got 3, I think, remaining presenters. So I've got Deputy Mayor and Councillor O'Sullivan. Deputy Mayor and then Councillor O'Sullivan, please.
Hi, Mike. This is probably more of a comment, or I don't know where you are with your research on web development and whatnot, but I do work in that field, but specifically for the financial field and accountants and whatnot. But I am doing the digital work for the Knights of Columbus, so I had that. You guys do have a Facebook, so you're not completely out of the digital world. I saw your Facebook. So you do have that. But I could give you a recommendation. Now, my company is building sites for the Knights, but specifically for you guys, I don't know if you've seen what the Rotarians have done, but they're working with what's called, it's a Canadian company. It's called Club Runner. And the beauty of Club Runner, you get a website, but it has everything else inside. It has your membership for all your people, the listings, mailings. It has everything built into one space. And you can pay for it monthly, about $25 a month or something like that, to get yourself up and running. It is a Canadian company. They secure on the servers on Canadian side. You can take payments. You can do all kinds of great stuff. So just a recommendation, check them out. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to give me a call.
Well, thank you very much. I've noted their name, and I know where to go then. Do I need to add money to my budget ask? No?
I think we're good. Of course, we appreciate the Legion's leadership. It's, I think, very sustainable model in terms of giving back. So, Mike, we're obviously thrilled you're here tonight and articulating some of the needs you foresee in terms of growth and serving a growing veterans population. And Councillor Starkey, and I'm sure Councillor yourself among those, right, who have relocated to North Grenville very proudly. And I think we're extremely conscious of how many actively serving military members we have, as well as veterans. So I'm very proud to have a Legion in our community that is really active and serves such a diversity of veterans, and we know that we'd like to do more. So thank you very much for thinking to the future.
Good.
Really,
thank you very much. Thank you very much on behalf of the Kemptville Legion to everybody. Thank you. Good night.
Okay. Take good care. Great. Okay, so we've got Rob and Shelley Moore. I don't know which or both are here this evening. It's the Rural Fetal Alcohol Syndrome Disorder presentation. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Well,
Shelley is not going to be able to join
okay.
with me here tonight.
That's all good. Okay. So Rob, we are just refreshing your memory on the 5 minutes. I'm quite confident you'll be able to get through, and we look forward to asking some questions. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I'm the communications director for the Rural FASD support network, and I'm going to go to the next slide at this point. So because this is the first time we've ever formally presented to you folks, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background. Interestingly though, our ask is the same as the Legion's in terms of we are also asking for a website design. But as a little bit of background in terms of who we are currently a nonprofit corporation formed in 2019. Right now, we're representing, it's actually 123 families now. We've had a big uptake in the last month since I created this presentation with 168 children with FASD, including 10 families from the municipality of North Grenville. What you may not know is that 4% of children in Ontario live with this permanent neurodisability. It is the most common neurodisability in the province, 3 times more common than autism. And based on that number, we actually anticipate there's likely around 150 children in the municipality of North Grenville with this disability based on the latest census numbers. Our current partnerships include Children's Mental Health of Leeds Grenville, who is actually our funding organization for our Bell Let's Talk grant that we just received, and I'll let you take a look at the poster that we have behind. Some of our other memberships also include the Ministry of Children, Community, Social Services, both of our school boards, as well as Kids Inclusive as our LIN. And then finally, the OPP Kempville Detachment has also been a really big supporter in terms of our work. The thing that I would want to bring out at this point is FASD is not actually recognized right now in the province as an eligible diagnosis for both developmental services or community living support. And so that's really why our corporation came into existence, is to be able to fill that gap that existed for families in our area who have that are caring for children with this disability. Next slide. So in terms of our corporation's objectives, the first one that we really look at is we help build a safe and healthy, cohesive community by bringing awareness on the challenges of FASD and why it's so important in terms of that needed support. Three of our local partners, David from the North Grenville Times has been a huge media partner for us right from the get-go for the last 3 years, and has always done a great job in terms of bringing that media awareness piece for us. It was actually MPP Steve Clark who was the one that served as our sponsoring MPP when we were at Queen's Park this past February to bring a presentation to the Legislative Assembly. That presentation was actually done by our youth panel, of which my daughter Cassie was part of that panel as well. We also bring collaborative leadership by increasing our network of community partners and that resource sharing. Again, you saw some of the folks that we're already associated with. And then we really encourage that sustainable growth by reaching other families and services. And that's one of the biggest challenges we have now because our corporation is so new and we've had such a huge growth in this last year and a half. We're really finding we're needing to build our infrastructure. And one of those aspects is having a professional website. Next slide. And so right now, our request would be, even though we have a very strong social media presence, and we do that through our Facebook page, our Twitter account. We have our YouTube channel is actually linked with the provincial website as well in terms of bringing awareness about FASD. And we do have a contract with Cogeco TV, where our speaker series is broadcasted on a monthly basis. What we are missing is our website. And if you go and take a look at it, it's very clearly extremely amateurish because we basically bought a $20 domain name and a couple of us sat down and created on Google Sites. We recognize because we are now actually offering 36 different programs, and we're doing that through the 92 volunteers we currently have because we don't have any employees. Our revenue stream right now is not at that level where we're able to hire someone. And so that's why we're here today, is we're really looking for not just yourself. We are speaking to a couple other areas as well, a couple other potential funders about coming together and looking at helping us get that website developed. We would obviously want to put your logo on and recognize you as one of our funding sponsors. And at the same time, we want to serve as that voice for those families in North Grenville. Like I said before, right now we anticipate there's around 150 families. We've been able to find 10. And because of our Bell Let's Grant fund that we're able to use over the next 2 years, we're wanting to get the word out that people can come and talk to us and we can possibly help them out in terms of looking particularly around mental health therapy. And that's why we're partnered with Children's Mental Health of Leeds Grenville. And then finally, in terms of how we would measure the success, we would do it through the website analytics associated with the website through both number of hits as well as number of shares. And next slide, and I believe that brings me to the end.
Great, awesome. That timing worked because you were just at 5 minutes. Appreciate that. Okay, so just a couple. Where are you based? Are you here in North Grenville with us?
So we very deliberately, when we first established ourselves, we recognized we needed to create a rural model, and through that, we deliberately did not establish a physical location.
Of course.
We right from the get-go, one of the youth programming that we offer right now is our Wednesday night youth club is actually learning how to do coding, programming. We do a lot around technology. It was great to see Rebecca earlier because 2 of our youth actually entered in the MyView Film Festival. We do a lot, and a large part of that is we're trying to give them employment skills going forward because with this disability, there's a lot of types of occupations that are not available to them, but definitely technology-based occupations are. And so that's part of why we very deliberately set ourselves up from that virtual standpoint.
Got it. Okay, I understand. Thank you. And then just quickly before I turn it to council colleagues, you've identified 10 families here in North Grenville. You
Yes.
expect that more will come out of the woodwork with time, promotion, efforts, etc. Is that it?
Exactly.
Okay, great. Appreciate it. It's obviously a well-utilized network, and I can totally see the need for something that serves rural families. There's no question. Council colleagues, other questions? Just canvassing. Deputy Mayor, go ahead. Oh, you're muted, Jim.
I know. Yeah, I know. Just a quick question. You sound like you said you're very new. You mentioned corporation. I don't know if you're incorporated or not-for-profit or how you're setting yourself up. That's another question. But how do you compare or differentiate yourself from the other organizations like FASD1 and some of those other groups? Like, are you doing the same stuff, or is there something you're carrying a different niche or something? What's happening? What's up?
So FASD1 was they're based out of Toronto, and their funding comes through the Public Health Agency, and their mandate is strictly on FASD prevention. Our 2 main functions that we serve, number 1 is we have created this rural model that doesn't exist anywhere else in the province right now. And it's actually why MPP Clark wanted us to present to the Legislative Assembly to bring awareness that what we've set up is, in fact, a lot of our members are actually from the north. We have folks from Sioux Lookout. We have folks from James Bay. We have a lot of the remote communities are connected with us as well because we're able to connect that bridge.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
And what was the value of the grant from Bell Let's Talk?
We got the full 20,000.
Okay.
And it's and the two aspects related to it. Number one is the counseling sessions that we provide peer facilitated counseling. So all of our members are all caregivers raising children with FASD or adults with FASD. And so that's what our support groups are. We're sharing lived experiences and solutions that we have found within our group, and we share that throughout. So we're looking to get more formal training in terms of how to do that effectively. So that's half of the Bell Let's Talk grant. The other half is exploring alternative psychotherapy that's effective for people with FASD. And in fact, all of our referrals from North Grenville have came from two psychotherapists that work out of Kempville, as well as the Kempville Hospital.
Okay. And are you approaching other municipalities for funding?
We are. Okay. So our main presence is 85% of our membership is located in the counties of Lanark and Leeds Grenville. And so there are a couple other municipalities in Lanark County as well that we're having conversations with.
Okay, perfect. Okay, council colleagues, anything else? Okay, thank you very much. This was a very interesting presentation, certainly opened our eyes. So appreciate all of your good work and efforts, and then look forward to hearing more. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
All the best. Have a good night. Take care.
Bye.
Julia O'Grady, you have been waiting for some time, I think for the duration of the entire meeting. Are you ready to go?
I am rocking and ready to go. Let's do it.
Thanks. I was just speaking I was messaging with the clerk about how to do this next year, a session A and a session B, and that we'd avoid the long waits of some of our speakers who were on the latter half of this evening's presentation. So hopefully we'll have another way to do it next year, but thank you for being with us.
No problem. Happy to be here. All right. So thanks very much for having me, and thank you for the opportunity for events like this to be able to come to the municipality and ask for funding support. Next slide, please. So I'm Julia, and I think I know everyone here. So I'm the owner of ITM Events. I've been an event planner for 10 years. So this is right in my wheelhouse. This is an initiative that was started with myself and Om Shanti from Bodhi Tree, Melanie Charbonneau. So the two of us are partnering on this project and wanting to bring a yoga festival to town. It's going to be called the Surya Festival. I don't pronounce it as well as Om Shanti does, so she has her way of doing that, but that's the best you're going to get from me. Essentially, the idea is Surya is the sun. And so we want to do a festival that runs from sunrise to sunset. And within that day, there will be more than 15 yoga classes, a marketplace with trade show, this amazing healing center we want to have. So essentially like an outdoor healing area where we can have naturopaths and massage therapists and all of these great natural healing providers providing service. Obviously, depending on what COVID is looking like, they may not be allowed to touch them at this point, but we'll deal with that when we get there. A meditation session, and food that will be specific to a yogi type lifestyle where we're looking at vegan and vegetarian and very healthy lifestyle foods. And then my favorite part of the evening, and I have no idea what this actually is, this is all Om Shanti's design, but this incredibly sounding end of the day musical interlude thing that is going to be just mind-blowing. Apparently I've never experienced one, so I can't talk to it specifically, but apparently it's going to be something that will be talked about for sure. Next slide, please. I am big on bringing really high quality events to our municipality, and I look at it from a view of tourism. Although local is important, I'm really big on making sure that we are getting visible. I really want our events and festivals to be like those festivals that people travel to in other small towns like Almont and Merrickville and those others, Perth, you know, where people are coming from the city to see us and to experience our town. And this is one of those festivals that I think will do that because it is going to be different. We've done our research, and a lot of the yoga festivals that have been in the past are suffering or have since closed, not necessarily due to COVID, just, you know, the life of a festival is, you know, you either succeed and you run for 150 years or you run for 5 or 6. And so our focus really is on, first of all, the yoga and creating an incredible experience for our attendees. But second is using this platform as an opportunity to bring people to our community. Next slide, please. So we have 3 specific asks that we're making for the money. So the very first one is an event app. Because I'm in the event industry, it's really important to me that we are not, or that we are bringing to the events that I'm involved in the best of what's out there. And I live and breathe in this event space every single day. And I know what is getting people to attend and what is going to get people from the city to attend, because their expectations are often different than what is expected in a rural, at a rural event or a rural atmosphere. And so we want to take this to the next level, and we would like to be able to get an event app. What's interesting about an event app, if you've never used one, like if you've been to a conference, you may have used them. Essentially what it is you've got this entire festival, in this case, happening in your hand. And what's amazing about it, and what I think is hugely beneficial to the municipality, if we can get your help with this, is that we're going to be able to use this to really market our community and our local businesses, because we can use this app to push out content to the individuals. Like, we're not just counting on them walking down the street. Like, it's not like just get them to Kempville and then hopefully they'll take a walk down Main Street. Using the app and the features within the app, we can actually force them into the door of all of these stores.
1 minute left.
And what I also love about this for the municipality is the live polls and surveys. So we can actually work with you to use the polling app to have the municipality ask questions of those people who are attending from outside the city, and ask valuable questions that you need access to, and we're going to be able to hand that information to you. Next slide, please. The next use would be for wireless mics and sound systems, but thinking specifically because of our potential COVID landscape that we're going to be in. If everyone has to lay out a yoga mat, we're going to be pretty spread out. So if we got 6 feet apart in every direction of a yoga mat, we're going to need a proper sound system to make sure everyone can hear us. Next slide, please.
That's 5 minutes.
Okay. Would you like me to stop talking?
No, sorry, Julie, I was muted. Just keep going. Just do your best to wrap. But
okay, yeah, this is the last slide, other than to wrap it up.
Yeah, no problem.
So, and then the last one be complimentary venue rental. We're really looking forward to hosting this on the college campus, and if we could get some support in being able to use the facilities free of charge, that would be super helpful to the event. Next slide, please. Volunteers, it's really hard for us to estimate the number of volunteers we would have at this time, just because we don't know what the COVID restrictions are going to be. You know, for example, if we can have 100 people at the event, that's a big difference of number of volunteers we're going to need versus if we're at a point where we can have 500 attendees. So at this point, we don't know what that looks like. And if we have to go to a virtual space, then that obviously changes that number as well. Next slide, please. Measured success is going to be very typical event measurements using the event app, the social media impressions, revenue versus cost, sponsor and exhibitor feedback. So it's not always about the money, is how you measure the success, or by social media reach. We want to hear what the actual feedback is from local businesses, our sponsors and exhibitors. Next slide, please. And finally, the total ask is $7,232. The additional benefits, showcasing the healthy lifestyle that North Grenville is promoting. I know the municipality has been putting a big push on using our trails and trying to get people out here and experiencing what rural life brings to people's worlds. And in this COVID lifestyle, people getting to move out of the city because they don't have to be in an office anymore. I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to really promote what rural living brings to them. Promoting mental and physical health during a trying time around the globe. I think a yoga festival is desperately needed at this point because everybody needs to get a little bit zen right now with everything that's going on. And of course, as any festival does, creating a sense of community among local businesses and residents. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Julia, so much. Wonderful presentation. What's the COVID thinking again at this stage? And is there a plan B for timing?
So not a plan B for timing. I think what we're going to do is we would move to either a hybrid or a virtual strategy, and which is what we're doing, like as myself as an event planner, that's what we're doing with all of our clients right now, is that we actually have a plan A, B, and C depending on what the event is. And we're going to take that exact same strategy with this event. And that's where we're at in the planning as well for the festival, is just trying to figure out what our options are going to be if we get to a point where we can have a limited number of people on site, or if we can actually go big, but then having all like the physical restrictions in place that we'll have to manage that.
Perfect. And what's the expected attendance? Did you speak to that? And then I'm recognizing Councillor O'Sullivan and Councillor Berkeley.
Yeah, no, I did not speak to that because everything feels so up in the air right now. As much as we like when we started planning, when COVID was still kind of like, oh, it'll be gone before we know it, don't worry about it. We were thinking, 500 to 1,000 people, but now maybe we would get that reach and people, that's the number of people who would want to attend, but what are we going to be allowed to have in attendance at that time is really going to be, it's really kind of out of our hands at this point.
Indeed. Okay. So Councillor O'Sullivan and then Councillor Berkeley, and maybe let's just take those questions. Let's take all three. I don't know, Councillor Strachan, if you have anything to add. Let's do a round with council and we'll go back to Julia. I know the night is getting late, so we'll try to be as efficient as possible. So go ahead. I think Councillor O'Sullivan is first.
Okay. Thank you, Julie, for that presentation. I do have a question. Your total ask was $72.32. Is that plus a complimentary venue rental?
No, that includes that. I put an amount in there, what I estimated based on the conversations I've had with Cheryl at the college.
Oh, okay, so it's $45.20 for the event app, $13.56 for the wireless mics and sound system. And what was the other $13.56 for?
The municipality.
That's
our estimate. Yeah, we think I think I had been told it was 500 for the outdoor space. And then when we calculated our estimate for the indoor space for the amount of time, it worked out to whatever the difference is.
Okay, and the cost for people to participate in this would not recover any of the expenses or enough of them?
It could potentially, right? It all comes down to those numbers of what we're looking at as potential, who can attend and how many people can attend.
Okay, any idea what the cost would be for people to attend?
We've been throwing around the number of $40 for the day, and that would get you access to as many classes as you'd like to attend.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thanks very much for that interesting presentation.
You're very welcome.
Sounds like something I might want to do. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I think I've got Councillor Berkeley, Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Strachan, should you wish to get in there. Okay. Councillor Berkeley.
Thanks for that presentation. Very well thought out. I wouldn't expect anything less from you, Julia. So thank you. Just to follow up on Councillor O'Sullivan's question, it's not within our purview to give you that space on the campus, that not to get into the weeds about different responsibilities and stuff. Would you be able to go forward if there was a cost attached to the venue? Do you have a way of sort of recouping that cost? Because we may not be able to grant that.
Yep, and that's fine. We always figure we ask because the worst answer we're going to get is no, right? So yeah, so we would like that. It has to be at the college as far as Om Shanti is concerned. That's where she wants it. So we'll have to adjust other things in our budget line items to make sure that is taken care of, because that's a priority for her.
Just a final comment. Thank you for that answer. What I particularly like about your presentation is that you've put some real thought into how to evaluate the festival and how to measure the success. So I think that's very important and stands this proposal in good stead. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to Deputy Mayor. Go ahead.
Okay, hi, Julia. I think my questions, a lot of them were asked or answered, the dates, participant numbers, the complementary space that you were looking for. But I think, John mentioned that, but I think you've added a 1356 was an estimated cost, what the campus would charge. So if you got the funding from us, that money then would go to pay the campus for the space. Is that your intention? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so it is not, you're not looking for complementary space. You're looking for it to be paid for through this granting amount.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. However you guys want to do that, because I believe the campus now reports under you. I know Cheryl's email address has changed, so I don't know exactly how those logistics work, but essentially, if you can give it to us for free, that's great. If not, can we get the cash so that we can pay the college and move it from one hand to the other?
I gotcha. Okay, so you're asking for the 7232, which is basically your expenses. You've not included the potential revenues. So are you going to be, are there other expenses that we're looking at that will be covered by something else or by the revenues, or is this everything?
No, that's certainly not a full budget. I provided exactly what we were asking for, so as to not overload. I can't remember if in the proposal, if we were required to put a full budget in, but if we were required, I did put that in there. And so, yeah, no, there are lots of other expenses that we're going to have to cover with the revenue from the ticket sales.
Okay, so this is just your ask to us. Okay.
Correct.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Strachan, did you want to add anything at this stage?
Yeah, I don't think I have any other questions to ask of you, Julia. Thank you very much for the presentation. I think that this is a different kind of opportunity, a different kind of event for Kemptville, certainly. I don't think we've seen anything like this. And that, you know, for sure, if it's something that allows for, you know, a virtual kind of gathering. We've all gotten used to that kind of thing. Personally, I'm really liking the sound of all these different opportunities to bring everybody together, especially because of where things have been over the last year. So hopefully that's an opportunity that we can use coming up in the next little while, and that it's in this kind of different approach to things too. So no questions. Thank you very much for the presentation and for the thought that you put into just how we can measure the success and the value and so on.
Sarah, we're almost there. I do have one final question about the event app. So Julia, I have experience with event apps. I think they're really good, right? Everybody's on their phones anyway. Why wouldn't you just give them the event app? I think the cross promotional piece is extremely powerful. And I see alignment with our tourism strategy, which is obviously still in its infancy, but nonetheless enables, I think those digital tools enable people to look around and discover not just Kemptville campus, but the many other things that North Grenville has to offer. So I have to say, I think it's the only way to go. So great to see that you're thinking along those lines. I'm surprised by the price point. So I can't, it's been a couple of years since I've dealt with event apps. The $4,500 price tag is fairly inclusive for a more elaborate app, a modest app. And what would the festival's appetite be to do some co-development of the app so that the cross-promotional piece, right, could be partly fed and populated by some of our tourism goals?
Yeah, 100%. So that is exact cost. I had a call with the company that I want to use based on my own personal experience or business experience even. And so that is the exact cost of the app that gets me the components of the app that I need in order to make sure that this festival runs well virtually on a, like not virtually like the event itself, but the platform itself on an app. And I would love the opportunity to be able to work with your tourism group and marketing even. I don't know how that all works in municipality, how that's all laid out, but tourism and marketing, getting their hands into that app, because I think there's opportunities there for us to put in maps and all kinds of amazing features that we can actually get people moving through the township in all different ways. Like we can get them all the way out to Oxford Mills and Bishop's Mills if that's what we decide we want to do with that structure around whatever the focus is going to be for tourism and marketing.
And are you looking at other sponsorships? I'm just trying to get a better sense of the business model.
Yeah, we are. Everything is kind of at a standstill until we find out if you guys are going to support us in this app endeavor, because that's really where the crux of our value is going to be added at this point, because we don't know what the physical space is going to look like. It's not like we can be selling big banners and stages and all kinds of crazy things, because we don't think that's going to be able to happen. So everything is really dependent on that app and how we can really blow this up into something amazing. So until we hear back from you, we're kind of at a standstill as far as sponsorship is concerned, but there is a long list making its way through our Google Drive. And what's really exciting about that sponsorship list is that it includes companies that may have never had exposure in our municipality before. So I think that's a huge opportunity for those companies as well to be seen here, and also for them to get them here, like to get them into our municipality, because I want them to see that we are growing and there may be potential here, especially with everything new that's going on at 43 and the 416. There's an opportunity for a lot of companies to be looking at that and thinking, wow, like maybe we should actually be positioning ourselves to be heading in this direction.
Great. Okay. Okay, perfect. We appreciate that, and that context for the event app I think is important in terms of how you're doing your own planning, both financially and organizationally. Okay. Do you, I guess something like Zoom would be the virtual platform ultimately, right? If you weren't able to.
No, I will do everything I can to avoid Zoom to be my virtual platform, 100%. The stuff that is coming out right now, the stuff that's coming out right now is incredible, and there is amazing opportunity for us to make a true experience virtually. If I can control that and make that happen for us.
Okay, we'll leave it there. You've been very patient, as Sarah also has been very patient. So appreciate this, Julia. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Right, take care. Okay, last but not least, Sarah Herring. Thank you, Sarah. You patiently waiting all this time. So we're obviously thrilled to welcome you. I know we're talking about yoga festivals in the summer, and winter is literally at our doorstep. So appreciate your presentation and welcome the dialogue.
Well, thank you very much. And I was a little concerned coming last that I or you guys might all be asleep by now.
Never.
Lasting till 9 p.m. makes you an honorary member of council.
Yeah, really. 10, really, John. Come on, 10. No, I'm joking. Okay.
Well,
let Sarah do her thing. Sarah, talk. We will stop talking.
Well, I'm just blown away by the great slate of community endeavors presented tonight, and the wide range of things being done. And I just got more and more excited about everything I was hearing about. And I really enjoyed hearing the youth perspective from Emily. But I'll get back to my presentation, which is Kempville Winter Trail, connecting people and community through winter activity. So next slide. What we're all about is a multi-use winter trail for Nordic skiing, snowshoeing, winter cycling and walking, and operating through land use agreements with various public and private community landowners. And we're a nonprofit corporation made up of community volunteers that are operating for the benefit of North Grenville residents and visitors. And next slide. Okay. So what we plan to do is groom trails to create a ridged compacted surface for walking, fat biking, snowshoeing, and skate skiing. And we would have a tracked portion for classic cross-country skiing. Next slide. So for our first year of operation, we plan to operate in the Ferguson Forest Center and create approximately 2 kilometers of trails in the Arboretum, 2 kilometers out on the nursery roads, and a 1 kilometer trail on the woodland trail to the north of the Arboretum, which would amount to 2 kilometers in total, for an overall total of about 6 kilometers of trail this year. Next slide. And what we're looking at really is overall our future expansion possibilities. Obviously, Ferguson is the largest opportunity there because of the size of the acreage. But we're also looking at connecting with the waterfront, Riverside Park, and Kempville campus, hopefully in the future, to create a north-south trail right through Kempville, with Old Town Kempville as that would be a half-kilometer commercial connector, sort of dividing the north and the south. So if we can go on to the next slide. What the funding would be used for would be the equipment, grooming machines, and that is plural, a snowmobile. We do have one machine as of today, which allows for a bare bones operation, but a track roller, a second track setter, even a second groomer in time, you know, if we are operating down at the campus, would allow for much better operation and result in better trails. And funding would also be used for operating expenses, insurance, administrative costs, repairs, gas, that kind of thing, and signage. So next slide. Now, for the benefits of the community, to me, they're really broad and varied. It creates a vibrant outdoor winter space where community members and visitors can safely connect while socially distanced. It promotes mental and physical health and well-being, and that's at a time of year when it's most needed. Engages residents and visitors in outdoor winter activity, connects people with nature. It showcases Kempville's natural spaces and parks, and that spills over into other seasons too. And it keeps North Grenville residents in the community and draws tourists to it. It's easy for all ages to use and enjoy. And once fully operational, it would connect people to Old Town Kempville, as I touched on before. And that is, of course, dependent on the operation at Waterfront and Riverside eventually. And the other thing is that while use of the trail is free for everybody, the whole trail system has great potential to spur economic activity in the area. For example, increased sales of snowshoes, maybe creation of a ski club, which I think is something that's in the works. Before and after trail use, shopping and dining, equipment sales and rental opportunities. And to me, it really opens the door for a lot of other things to piggyback onto what we create here. To me, it's the backbone too for winter celebration in our community. And listening to some of the other presentations tonight, I saw some opportunities to partner with particularly the, what was his name? Herb Cloutier's presentation for the Kempville Waterfront Trail and the skating on the creek. You know, when you look at, well, the great initiative that the municipality has just created with the sledding over at Ferguson Forest Center, to just broaden that whole winter experience. So next slide. For measures of success, basically observation reports from volunteer trail ambassadors, social media assessment measures. To me, social media is important and useful. We aren't even operational yet, and we already have close to 300 Facebook followers, and a third of those having just signed on within the last 2 weeks. And to me, this indicates there's a high level of anticipation in the community for this endeavor. And another measure would be community feedback. So I guess that's about it. I'm at the end, so any questions? Dorothy?
Yes, sorry, I was having difficulty unmuting. I've seen
Okay.
Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for coming at the end. I certainly your presentation, I think, energizes many of us, including me. I was a cross-country skier in Labrador City, one of the first lit trails in Atlantic Canada.
Oh, wow.
In 1982, and my mother bravely took us cross-country skiing at 6 o'clock in -40 weather on Friday evenings after we all got home from school, and we did it in the dark. We actually had some lit trails, and they obviously extended the use of those trails in a very cold and dark winter. But it's some of my favorite memories in Labrador City was being on those trails. So. It's a great initiative. It always boggled my mind. I never understood why we didn't have, formal cross-country skills. Cross-country ski trails here. So really neat to hear about this. And thank you for your efforts. Deputy Mayor, and then I'll pass it on to others. Councillor O'Sullivan, I see as the next speaker. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Like I said, Sarah, next year, you know better. You'll be AAA winter trails, right?
Yeah.
At the top of the list.
Yep.
Just a note that we are doing or planning over the next few years some extensive work in Riverside Park.
Yeah.
We're talking about a trail through the park itself with potentially in the winter, the comment came up is to have a ski trail beside the potentially paved trail, which would be lit at night and whatnot. We're looking at that's on the radar somewhat. So it's something to think about too. That'd be it's a nice area. And we're hoping to have more winter type of activities there as well. So that might be part of your plans in the future. Just as a heads up. So are you getting funding from somewhere else? Like $2,000 is not a lot of dollars for what you're saying. So it sounds like you're getting funding somewhere else, or what's your plans there?
Well, we've already raised close to $6,500, and that's a combination of directly approaching local businesses, social media appeals, and a GoFundMe account. And that's just over 3 months. And so I think given the COVID constraints that have been in place, I think that's really not bad. But the 6,400 is still not what we anticipate we would need for this current season. Each successive year, I think our costs would go down as we cover more and more equipment, but there will still be ongoing expenses. And obviously, the more equipment we have, the better the trails are able to be, and as well as other trail embellishments over time. We're looking at things from bird feeders to various different seating things along the trail to perhaps depending on municipal approval, to warm up fire pits at strategic locations, and whatever else can be put in to engage and attract the community. So it can be bare bones, or it can be with all the bells and whistles. And obviously, the more there is, the better done it is, the more attractive it is, and which is a benefit not only for the residents, but also in attracting tourism. So that's it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Are you going to get more snow? Are you working on that?
Yeah.
It's coming. It's coming. Council colleagues, sorry, Councillor Sullivan, you had your hand up, and Councillor Barkley, go ahead.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for all that you've done to make this so close to a reality right now. And I know that insurance is one of the things that the last hurdle to get over. So hopefully fundraising, etc., will sort that out for you. I think it's really important with the snowbirds staying home, the curling club closed, the arenas closed, all those sorts of things. People need the activity and they need the physical activity. And there was a presentation on the news tonight about the increased prescriptions in antidepressants. And you know, it's crazy. People just need to be outside, and this is a great initiative. And even before COVID happened, I would have loved to have seen this. So I'm really happy to see it finally coming. And well, thank you for all your efforts. I think that there's a lot of potential in the campus as well. I know that people, including myself, have gone on night cross-country ski trips in the Gatineau parks, where you can ski into a hut and have a meal, cook it yourself and then ski back out on a nice moonlit night. And I don't like those big hills, so I would much rather do that kind of thing in North Grenville and perhaps buy a takeout dinner in North Grenville. So I think we have lots of tourism opportunities here, because not everybody likes the big hills in Gatineau. Anyway, so thank you for that. I think it's a great initiative, and I'm pleased for that. I also know a really good location for a warm-up hut in the campus.
Awesome. Well, I would like to thank you, Councillor O'Sullivan. But I would like to touch on something that you mentioned, and that is the insurance. And I have to say that is proving to be a bit of a stumbling block, in that I have not yet been able to find somebody to insure the Endeavour. I thought I had it, and it's been a bit of a problem. And I talked, if I can back up for a bit, there are similar endeavors that have started up in Ottawa. And the first one was the SJAM Winter Trail along the Western Parkway, along the Ottawa River. And that was the thing that first came on my radar and got me thinking about this. And I've sort of used it as a bit of a model for what we were doing here. And as I started to run into difficulty with insurance, I talked to them a bit more about how they were structured and how they operated. And their administrative stuff came under the Dovercourt Recreation Centre in Ottawa. So I had a meeting with John Rapp, who runs the Dovercourt Community Association. And in my meeting with John, I was made aware that the SJAM Winter Trail and the other trails, that there are now 5 of them operating in Ottawa, they had formed a coalition, but all of them, and in fact, pretty much every community organization in Ottawa is able to get insurance through the City of Ottawa at a group coverage thing for a reduced rate. And so I did throw that out to, is it Gary Dyke, the CAO here? To see if something like that might be possible through the municipality, recognizing that, we're not big like the City of Ottawa. But we're blocked right now. I'm hoping for good news from the insurance company that I'm the broker that I'm dealing with, but at the moment we're on hold until we resolve this. And I know there's a way around it. It has to be found.
Councillor Sullivan?
Thank you, Sarah. I know I've been really trying to figure out a solution for this issue. I think it was kind of a catch-22, because if the Winter Trails had become a subcommittee of the Active Transportation Advisory Committee, I think that would have resolved this issue in terms of having the insurance through the municipality. Because I know that you had mentioned some of those other groups too in Ottawa were under the NCC and were covered by the NCC. Because
no, they're not. None of them are covered by the NCC.
Okay. But it's through the Dovercourt Association with Dovercourt or something.
Well, what happens is that the City of Ottawa, in recognizing the value of community groups like this, has arranged for the community groups to come under an umbrella insurance that piggybacks onto
Right.
the city's insurance.
And
coverage.
that's why had the group been like a subcommittee of active transportation or fallen in some way under the municipality, it would have been okay. The catch there was, I believe, the fundraising initiatives, that it was, you couldn't do both. You couldn't.
Right.
And so you incorporate it as a separate private group and therefore not eligible for insurance under the municipality. So I'm still trying to find out from Director Guy if there's any way that we can figure out how to sort that out. It's sort of tricky that we can't do fundraising and be part of the municipality at the same time. So I hope we'll be able to sort it out.
Okay. Well, the
Yeah,
other groups in
I
Ottawa.
think-
Okay, sorry.
And then Sarah, of course, go. I think obviously it's a little bit separate from the community budget request, so obviously very germane to your efforts. So I know that Councillor O'Sullivan and I are both following up to see if an identified carrier, right, that is known to the municipality might be in a position to support your insurance request. We totally understand why it's imperative.
And Director Guy is looking into some options as well for you too.
I appreciate it. And the door is not closed in the what I'm pursuing either. There are a couple of other avenues they're exploring there. So,
can I just ask, are you unable to groom without insurance? I think that's important for us to know.
That's my understanding. Now, we might be able to come up with sort of a creative workaround with Ferguson Forest Center in providing a service to them rather than getting permission to operate. I'm not sure. We're looking at all the ins and outs here. I know there's a solution.
I would suggest that Councillor O'Sullivan and I and you regroup in the morning because I think we might be able to find some additional ways through this.
Okay.
So why don't we? I'll just turn to any other council colleagues on the specifics of the budget request. Councillor Barkley and Councillor Strachan and Sarah. I'll have Doreen follow up to find a time for us to meet tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Sarah. I think you can tell by the way this discussion was going that there's a lot of traction for this idea, a lot of support on council. In 2006, almost 15 years ago, or since that time, the municipality has been planning and dreaming more or less of connecting the Ferguson Forest Center with Riverside Park. And I'll get your email address and I'll forward you some detail about the plans for the waterfront trail, because connecting that north-south trail through town has a lot of resonance with me, and I think it would make Grenville, North Grenville unique, and really would spur economic development downtown if people could walk down and get as far as Riverside Park and vice versa up to Ferguson Forest Center without necessarily having to drive or navigate their bikes along a busy street. So thank you for that, and I'll turn it back over to my council colleague.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Strachan.
So thank you very much, Sarah. I think this is fantastic. I love the idea of all these suggestions of getting people together, and second to that, or maybe in line with that, I love the ideas of all these different ways to become more active and out in the community, even within smaller bubbles. I think we need to take a look at what happened during COVID in these last 9+ months and learn from that and realize that, opportunities where we can space out and get exercise and be outside and, do all those things can be equally valuable to as valuable as the activities where we're indoors and gathering as well. So I commend you for moving this forward. I think it's fantastic. I'm really truly believe that if you're going to live in Canada and you got winter, then you might as well make the best of it. And really that's by embracing the winter activities. I mean, that's truly the only way to do it. And I hope that your insurance situations are able to is able to resolve itself, and that you're able to get this going this winter and get a start. I think it has a huge potential to grow into something far beyond, like my council colleagues and the mayor have already mentioned, about connectivity and so on. And as you given in your presentation, I think those are great opportunities. The trail connectivity as a whole, regardless of the season, is definitely something that is top of mind for this council and for the community as a whole. You mentioned things like the warming stations, and lit trails are probably something that could be a further reaching goal, because the only thing that makes winter harder for some beyond the cold is the fact that it's really dark. And it would be great that on those dark, cold, snowy days that you have another option to get out and exercise. So I don't have a question for you. I think they've all been asked, but I really hope that this can work itself out, because I think it's a great initiative and much needed in this community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, so we will obviously take very seriously your request and salute you on the leadership and the rallying you've done with community members. And I think Doreen and I are very hopeful that we can identify a carrier, with the municipality's support. I know how difficult it is as a community organization to navigate some of those waters. It's not easy. So so I think we can press upon the municipality the identification of a carrier that is willing to say yes. And then, obviously the costs will be forthcoming, and that's something that I have confidence both sponsors and members in the community would like to help support you on, and the association on. So I think just at the beginning of what is a very auspicious effort. I see lots of people on skis as it is, including Councillor Strachan, who posted a photo from earlier today. And I know you will have so many enthusiasts and so many adopters, right, of trails who haven't felt the confidence to necessarily go out on their own, or who need a bit of a network or some infrastructure such as the groomed trails to get them on their way. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. I think this concludes, Heather, am I not mistaken, our lengthy budget presentation session?
Yes, you are correct, Your Worship.
Okay. All right. So Sarah, we'll bid you adieu, and we'll work to conclude the meeting. And thank you again, and look forward to being in touch soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
Good
take
night.
care. Okay, Council, I'm just referring back to the agenda. Just give me a moment.
Well, while you're doing that, could we recognize Wendy? I think she has something to contribute on the insurance issue.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't see Wendy. Wendy?
No. I was just offering to talk to Sarah about anything that she's looking at when it comes to the insurance, as we've been dealing with that with KDCA.
Excellent. That would be a great partnership.
Feel free to reach out and we'll discuss.
It's Wendy Ebelton from the Grenville District Community Association. We'll make sure you get connected in the morning.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Wendy.
I'm just watching.
Clearly. We're so glad to have a remaining viewer with us, both participant and community member. Okay. So with that in mind, colleagues, I'll move to, we have, of course, I think one motion, and that is to receive requests for community grants. And Heather, are we adopting anything here? The council receives the community requests as presented. Okay. So council colleagues, can I have a mover and a seconder for that motion? I see Councillor O'Sullivan and God, there's so many, all of you. I can't pick. Heather, pick somebody, please. They're all seconding. It's over to you. That's your job. So I have that. I'll call the question. Any objections? I see none. I think we're all in favor of receiving the requests. Of course, looking at the remainder of the agenda, nothing from sections H to L, so I'm not even going to say the words. And we'll go to the close of the meeting, and a confirmation bylaw is in order. And I'll look to Councillors O'Sullivan and McManaman to move in second. Would you mind?
Sure.
And I'll call the question. All in favor of confirming proceedings, raise your hands. Good. Thank you. And I'll look to Councillor Strachan and Barkley to move in second adjournment. And we are adjourning at 9:45 p.m. Colleagues, can I call the question on adjournment? All in favor? Good. Thank you. We've had a great discussion. It is really wonderful to see how many community groups are working so hard to ensure a good quality of life and bring new and different things to our community. And I'm sure, and I expect in almost every case, it will be heartily embraced. So thanks colleagues for your patience. Thanks to staff for the work, and we'll see you again soon.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Have
night.
a good night.
Bye.
Could I get Sarah's email if one of my colleagues
I will
has it?
do it right now. I'll just
Okay,
send you an email.
thank you so much.
Bye.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Hey.